Time is 5:33 p.m. It is Tuesday, June the 4th, and I'm going to call this special city council meeting to order. Would the city secretary please call the roll?
Mitchell,
Here.
Rizzo,
Present.
Heiser,
Here.
Zuniga, Harris,
Here.
Parsley,
Here.
Tobias.
Here.
All right, 6 members present. We have a quorum. Next up is citizen comments period. I have somebody registered. Miss Olivia, would you like to come speak? Come on. 3 minutes and go.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you all for allowing me to welcome Arden at Kohler's Crossing to Kyle. I'm Olivia. I'm a part of the leasing staff with the Sunridge Management Group that is a part of the management of Arden at Kohler Crossing. Today, I just wanted to take a few minutes of your time to welcome us to the city of Kyle and just thank everybody who's been a part of the building process of it. We are a unit that is a luxury apartment complex that is 263 units. We're going to specialize in 1s and 2 bedrooms. We are currently occupied at 2%, pre-leased for 7%, and we have amazing centers and activities. We have outdoor sports centers, we have fitness centers, swimming pools, and a dog spa, pet stations. We are currently offering 6 weeks off and having units available at $11.95 monthly. We wanted to thank you all for allowing me to be here, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who wants to come forward and speak? All right, seeing none, we'll close citizen comments and we will move to executive session. City Council now go into executive session to discuss items 1A through J pursuant to Texas Government Code sections 551.071, 551.072, and 551.087. Thank you. Taking now, motion to adjourn. All right, we are adjourned. Time to leave, I guess. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. Good evening, everyone. The time is 7:06 p.m. It is Tuesday, June the 4th, and I'm going to call this regularly scheduled city council meeting to order. Would all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the city secretary please call the roll?
Mitchell,
Here.
Rizzo,
Present.
Heiser,
Here.
Zuniga,
Present.
Harris,
Here.
Parsley,
Here.
Tobias.
Present.
All right, 7 members present. We have a quorum. Next up is approval of the minutes.
Mayor, I want to go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes for City Council meeting on May 22nd and also the special meeting same day, 2024.
Second.
All right, motion by Councilmember Tobias, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem that we approve the minutes. Agenda item number 1. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries 7-0. Next up is citizen comments period. At this time, we ask anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak on any item to please do so. We also ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes and that you direct those comments to the mayor and council. And finally, we ask that you fill out a citizen comments form and submit that to either myself or the city secretary. I do not think that I have any. Do I have any? We have some.
Over there to your left.
Registered. Here we go. All right, first up is Michael McDonald.
Day 78. On March 18, 2024, I sent a letter to member of council. Today, which is 78 days later, I have still not received a response from Mayor Travis Mitchell and council members Glenn Heiser and Laura Lee Harris. I think 78 days is more than ample time to expect a response. Speaking here tonight, again, proves my point. Unfortunately, these 3 members of council are arrogant, privileged, and think they are not accountable to the people they serve. I'm not intimidated, and I'm not going away. I mentioned the City of Kyle organization chart at prior meetings. The City Council answers to the residents and not the other way around. If I cannot trust you to respond to a simple letter, how can I trust you to run the City of Kyle And after 78 days of waiting, why would you expect me to trust you? I did not cause this problem. I addressed it. At the March 7, 2024 council meeting, Councilmember Heiser publicly accused 6 residents of being haters simply because we spoke in opposition to his proposed Pride-themed market days. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, please review the March 7th City Council meeting, specifically the City Citizens' Comment portion to see the truth. You will see that Councilmember Heiser was very disrespectful, condescending, and unprofessional in his reaction and response to those who oppose his proposal. Name-calling and accusations are so unbecoming of leadership. These traits drip of arrogance. Sadly, Mayor Travis Mitchell never addressed this behavior and allowed Councilmember Heiser to continue to personally criticize those speaking in opposition. The mayor should have stepped in and directly addressed Councilmember Heiser's inappropriate behavior. He was way out of line. The citizens of Kyle deserve to be treated with dignity and respect when they come before the council. The mayor remained silent. He allowed the criticism to continue. As for Councilmember Laura Lee Harris, by not responding to a simple letter tells me that you feel you are privileged and the letter writer is undeserving of your response. Unfortunately for you, your actions prove my point. These 3 members of council have revealed their true colors by not responding to a simple letter even after 78 days have passed. They are arrogant, they are privileged, and they have proven by their actions that they are unaccountable to the residents of Kyle. How were the other 4 members of council able to find the time to respond? If you think I would ever vote for someone who can't even respond to a letter after 78 days, you are wrong. These council members need to be shown the door. Mayor Mitchell, you have my number. Give me a call.
All right, thank you. All right, next up, Courtney Goza.
Good evening. I am Courtney Goza. I live in Four Seasons Farms. I want to say that I oppose items 8 and 9 on the agenda. I live off of 150 East, and this will create significant congestion, further complicating traffic in the area. I'm disappointed with Councilmember Zuniga for bringing this item back. Since the April 2nd council meeting, where a majority of council voted to break the charter and give themselves the perk of fully paid health care benefits, I've spent extensive time reading ordinances, the charter, personnel policies, and as many documents as I've had the ability to receive. What I have found is shocking. City Council and our hired employees commonly and flagrantly ignore and trump on Texas state law, our charter, city policies, and generally accepted accounting practices. City Council selectively chooses who they will respond to and when constituents reach out. Recently, Daniela Parsley made a statement on social media stating that if I emailed her, she would respond to me because she knows who I am. It has been more than 2 weeks and I've yet to receive a response. Our city council is compensated more than any other city of comparable size in the area and was given a $500 stipend for things like coffees and meals so they wouldn't put those things on their city credit cards. Council still charges all of those things. The city personnel policy limits hotel room reimbursement to $135 a night without special exemption provided by the city manager in advance, yet council routinely stays in rooms far exceeding this rate. They also have a history of making unallowed charges on their credit cards that the city pays. I recently questioned payment over the over-counter drugs for Bear Heiser while he was on a trip. It was coded to meals. But more importantly, the council credit card and reimbursements policy specifically states that medications are an unallowed expense. Brian Langley apparently makes his own policies for council, though, and said that the council member needed stomach aids while traveling and that the city was going to take care of him. Is it any wonder then that he received a 6% pay increase without any public debate or opportunity to comment? The city thrives on being as opaque as possible, using executive session to debate all aspects of transactions and denying the citizens information needed to participate in the decision-making process. The city charter states that we have or shall have no exclusive franchises, yet the TDS contract, which was negotiated and signed entirely in executive session, is just that. In paragraph 5, it states, this agreement grants the contractor herein the exclusive sole right and contract to provide solid waste and refuse collection and disposal services. The city secretary makes obtaining public records information as difficult as possible. Despite it being obvious that credit card spending by the city is of significant public interest, I'm still being charged $160 to obtain these records. I know you all feel entitled. After all, you were elected and put up on that pedestal. You may feel like you can continue to thumb your noses at the citizens and do what you want, but I will continue to work to expose your perfidy and hold you accountable for the actions as public servants and employees of we, the people of Kyle.
All right. Next up, Stephanie McDonald.
Good evening, members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I come before you with several concerns. I want to commend the council members that are keeping their ethical edge sharp and implore you, please continue. The public notices this. When elected officials don't behave as they should in the capacity of being a public servant, for instance, resorting to call the people they're supposed to represent haters for simply expressing a position different from theirs, those elected officials have violated public trust and proved themselves to be unworthy of the office they hold. Residents of Kyle should do everything they can to replace these individuals with people of good character who are worthy of serving in the capacity of city council. I want to talk about ethics. In 2023, a council member voted for creating a new position in the Kyle Police Department. Shortly after, she decided not to seek another term on the council and was hired for that very position. This all occurred within less than 5 months. The fact that she voted on this issue and was placed in the position the way she was is totally unethical. I'm concerned about something similar happening with the recent mental health proposal. Councilmember Rizzo raised a concern at the last meeting that this sounded like the city was trying to create a health department. Does this mean that a council member will have a position waiting for him? Where are our checks and balances? And why do we need to create this resolution to create mental health awareness for our minors when the county already provides it? Why isn't the council first reaching out to the county to see how the county can make minors aware of their services? Should the county reach out to school resource personnel or investigate what other avenues are available to make minors aware of the services already in place? Why didn't we need to spend $100,000 or more without exploring other options first? $100,000 here, $33,000 for the unethical healthcare decision. Before you know it, we're at $250,000. I was surprised to recently hear about the water feature in the two-step development project. Really, a kayaking feature when we don't even have water. We can't water our car in the driveway, we face a $3,000 fine. And another thing is the traffic 350 units will bring to 150. 150 is already has a problem. It seems that Kyle is reactive instead of proactive when it comes to our basics like water and roads. And speaking of water, I hope everyone's ready for the rate hike we're all going to incur in the near future. Also about the credit cards and the stipend, I think the council should go back in an effort for transparency to using their personal credit cards for expenses, submitting the receipts, and being reimbursed for the eligible expenses they incur. I also feel we need a stipend on building, a moratorium on building until we get the infrastructure under control. Thank you very much.
All right, next up, Yvonne Flores-Kale.
Good evening, members of council. My name is Yvonne Flores-Kale, and I am here to speak on a few agenda items, starting with agenda items 8 and 9. It is my hope if agenda item 8 passes that there will be real conversations had regarding the housing units in this development. I have yet to hear one resident, old or new, state, "I wish Kyle had more housing." And as a reminder, you were elected to serve the residents already in Kyle, not possible future residents. The backup material discusses the following: a maximum of 350 multifamily units in Parcel 3, 24 townhome units in Parcel 1, and 15 residential flats in Parcel 1, with additional verbiage of, quote, minimum of 20, max of 30, although I'm not sure what that means. Taking those numbers minus the minimum of 20, max of 39 into consideration, there will be at least 309 389 housing units. After brief research, I learned residents use on average 100 to 175 gallons per day. To make things fair, since these will not be homes with yards, let's average it out to 150 gallons per day per living unit for 2 people. 2 people at 150 gallons a day times 30 days a month. This averages 4,500 gallons per month per housing unit. Now multiply that 4,500 gallons by allowable housing units. We are now looking at 1,750,500 extra gallons of water per month for the housing units alone. If my numbers are off, please feel free to provide us with better factual numbers. Although I'm sure not one of you has that information as of tonight when you'll be voting. I ask you, is this the best use of water for an area of town that houses minimum retail? And please don't tell me we can't bring the retail without the homes. Many cities, including New Braunfels and San Marcos, have areas that are strictly retail. This area lies within a tax increment reinvestment zone known as a TERS, and is being offered both planned unit development and a 380 agreement. Those 3 incentives should allow for no housing. By stating the developer can't build without the homes, you are allowing developers to plan our city, which is not what you were elected to do. I am begging you to please think about the residents. Retail in that area will be life-changing, but it should not come at the cost of additional housing and water. If this developer cannot offer the development without the homes, maybe they can sell it to someone who can. I would also like to discuss agenda item 11. As a daughter of a U.S. soldier who served his country for 25 years, I love the idea of building to benefit soldiers. With that said, why is this builder looking to the city for a break? These homes are not without benefit to the builder. There are tax credits and costs written off that the builder can obtain. The backup information doesn't even discuss how much the city will be losing, including impact fees, which the city could greatly use. I understand asking questions for what looks to be a generous opportunity is tough, but this benefit is not for the veterans, it is for the builder. I strongly recommend each of you ask questions and not be afraid to vote no for this item, which benefits the developer.
Thank you. All right, next up is Don Connolly.
Hi. Good evening, Mayor and Councilwomen and men. My name is Don Conley. I'm with Kyle Area Senior Zone as the Programs and Entertainment Coordinator, and I have Ellen Ermis, our Communications Chair. We'd like to formally invite you to some of our highlighted events that are happening at the Krug Activity Center on 101 South Burleson Street. On June 12th at 1 p.m., Happy Father's Day Cosmetics. Join us for a special Father's Day celebration with Councilman Dr. Miguel Zuniga and Plum Creek Labs Incorporation. Dr. Zuniga will be demonstrating the science behind natural products featuring shaving cream, aftershave, and shave balm. Samples available to bring home. Don't miss out on this unique opportunity to honor special dads in your life. On June 15th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., we're going to be hosting a Keep Cool and Kyle On Summer Heat Preparedness Fair. It's getting hot, and let's be prepared. Kyle Area Senior Zone will be hosting this event to educate and support the community. The focus of this event will be on summer heat preparedness. Vendors will be present to discuss and educate about the signs of heat stroke, water conservation, home and car maintenance, and how to protect our four-legged friends, to even more topics. There will be food, games, and a scavenger hunt to bring in the summer fun. A fan drive will also be held with partnership of Kyle Citizen Police Academy Alumni Association, and we'll be asking for donations for new boxed fans and oscillating fans. Please bring them to CAS now until June 15th. Lastly, June 19th from 10:30 to 1 p.m., we'll have our 3rd annual Juneteenth flag raising ceremony and celebration. Join us to raise the Juneteenth flag for the city of Kyle and celebrate the holiday. The ceremony will start at 10:30 and will be followed by music, food, exhibit, and kids' crafts. We'll also be showing the documentary Juneteenth Faith and Freedom at 12 p.m. The mission is to educate about the history and importance of Juneteenth, teach about the symbolism of the flag, and celebrate as a community. A fun and cultural experience for the whole family. It's free and open to the public. Food is available for purchase. Let's celebrate freedom together. Our partners for this is Unforgettable Families and Friends, New Sigma chapter of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporation, Buda Juneteenth, and Kyle Public Library. We hope you and the public can join us.
All right, thank you, Don. That's all the citizen comments forms that I have. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak? If you wouldn't mind, please stating your name for the record.
Sorry, I didn't see the thing. I've been up since 6:30 this morning. My name is April Perlman. Is that it? Okay. Hi, I just want to address y'all. I hear everybody's complaints and stuff like that. I guess it goes down to it is like our government officials right now, all the way up to the presidency and all of this, we're starting to see a lot of things that like you guys are failing on the people, right? Everybody's getting a paycheck. Everybody is spend, right? That's at the sacrifice of the, me, hardworking middle class person working 3 jobs to barely make rent, because in Kyle, you guys are like trying to be like a small Austin. So that goes back to 8 and 9. I was here last meeting talking about 8 and 9. And I'm all for the development. I understand you guys are trying not to do like, just a drive through city. You guys don't want your town to die. So I understand you guys want to evolve. It's important as a human race for us to evolve, right? But at the sake of what? Greedy millionaires, part of BlackRock corporations, either poisoning our food, poisoning our air, poisoning our water at the sake so they can make multi-million dollars and live great on their yachts. While the American people like myself, you guys all have income. You guys obviously are successful people. You guys don't struggle every day to pay just your mortgage because everything is rising. I live on 150 and I'm really invested in this property for many reasons. I had a ton of things written, but I'm going to get straight to the point. 8 and 9, it's absurd in the aspect of you wanting to do corporate restaurants, corporate shopping, an amphitheater. I'm all for it. I do event bartending, like that's my career. I'm starting to start my small business and doing event bartending. So I understand what that could bring to the community. But I don't think you guys quite realize how much water is going to be used in such a small area, or you guys just don't care because you guys are getting a payout. That's the only thing that would like result to the decisions. Also, everybody's speaking, but nobody's talking about the animals, the owls, the critters that are going to be slaughtered at the sake for these guys behind us to make multi-million dollars and for them to live and drink, wine on a yacht. Where's the solutions? We could go ahead and talk about the problems, but what are the solutions? Nobody's talking about a solution. It's just, no offense, bitch, right? So at the end of the day, what are we going to do for the animals? What are we going to do as number-wise? If we have houses and all of this, you guys are already spending what we don't have, just like this administration. We're spending, but we don't have it, and it's going to tax, and it's going to screw everybody else up. So my thing to you guys is to come up. You guys are godly men or spiritual men. What are you guys going to do to this land that's been here longer than everybody in this room? What are your solutions? How are you going to protect it? They haven't even proposed an environmental consultant. So with that being said, I feel like there should be factors and not just greed.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward? Go ahead. And stating your name is good. If you'll also, there's a form over there. If you'll fill that out and submit that to the city secretary. Domingo.
Okay, Mayor, council people, my name is Domingo Romo Castilleja. And last Monday we had Memorial Day ceremonies. And I would like to thank Miguel Zuniga for his great and inspiring speech he made. Veterans like myself, I really appreciate that. And I guess he's going to have another get-together. He's going to create all those Porsches and all the good stuff, right? Will. Mm-hmm. And last time he was going to have shaving cream. He was going to give me a shave with a straight blade. No way, Miguel.
Don't trust him.
I still don't trust you. So, but thank you a lot for that great speech you made. Thank you.
Thank you, Domingo. Yes.
My name's Joe Peters. Lived in this area for over 20 years. I'm going to change gears a little bit with everyone. I come here today to give my appreciation for your support for the Kyle Academy that was held recently. Even a bigger thanks to all the employees that came out, and they weren't working normal hours. This was from 6 to 8 every Monday for the last 6 weeks. And they were very informative. I think I saw the financial director earlier. He started, and we were all scared, without using a bad word, but we were scared. financially. And he was able to use terms and analogies to help us understand how big this is and how simple it really boils down to. So everyone's presentations were really good. Speaking personally, I know that they answered a lot of my questions. I seem to have got the gold star for asking a lot of questions. Others asked very good questions. It was very interactive. So I want to tell you thank you for all your city employees that participated in that. It was very good. For me personally, I look forward to participating in some aspect going forward. I haven't chosen exactly which way I'd like to go, but I can say for what I've leaned into as far as the committees I've come up and listened to as part of our homework that we needed to do, that I'm going to agree with some of the thoughts that have been said is, from my point of view and observation, the city of Kyle is in the driver's seat for this growth right now. You don't have to advertise to growth, it's coming. So I'm telling you to be picky. I'm telling you, you haven't solved the water problem. I'm telling you, you got to be picky. You can be demanding and picky. These rich people are going to build, but you can certainly guide them the right way so that we all have a benefit from it, whether it's jobs, tax base, not overuse of water and stuff like that. And part of what I've also said, it was one of the TERS that's just been created for the downtown area. I'm going to implore you to not be like the city of Buda and remove their water tower. They completely dissolved the beauty of their downtown by removing the water tower. On our first day.
You just united the room, Joe. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
After we listened to the numbers, we got to go tour the depot and go in the caboose, which I thought was just kick-ass. It was just really cool, entertaining. But the water tower is symbolic to the small town that we want to always hold on to. And to lose that would be a crying shame. So in the thought of the development of downtown stuff, keep some of these small town feelings and directions and strength, and don't be like Austin.
Well, I don't want to get you in trouble of having an improper benefit, but that hat is really cool. So thank you for your service. So hopefully you won't get too much trouble. But seriously, that's the nicest hat that I've seen. Well done. All right. It's next. It's on the agenda. All right. Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward and speak? All right. Seeing none, I'm going to close citizen comments. It's now closed. All right. Next up is agenda order. Does anybody have any items that they wish to request to be moved? All right. Seeing none, we'll keep right along. Next up, reports and presentation. Receive a presentation of the graduates of the 2024 Team Kyle Academy. Ms. Saunier, come on.
So I'm really happy to present this tonight. We had a fantastic class this year, as y'all can probably tell. They were super engaged, they were super involved, and they really just, it's not pulling up on here, hold on. Give me a second. But they were a really great class. They asked so many questions. They had so many stories to tell on their own. They were super, just all the way through, just a really great class. And I'm really happy to present them tonight as our graduates. Allison, would you like to come forward so we can start naming? All right. All right, so all my Team Kyle graduates, we're going to call your name, and Miss Allison's going to give you your certificate. If you would like to stay up front, we'll take a group photo at the end, unless you don't want to be in the group photo. But all right, so these graduates, they completed a 6-week course that involved everything from city founders' history to our organization, our interjurisdictional relationships, finance, streets, transportation, engineering, public works, and on top of that, they completed homework, which was 3 field credits that involved being in city meetings, that involved volunteering, that involved attending events and sending proof of it. So with no further ado, I'd like to start announcing our graduates. Our first on the board is Danielle Brown. Is Danielle here tonight? All right, David Klaus. Kat Monroe. Oh, there's David. All right. Perfect. Bridget Griffin. Ryan Sanchez Woods. Maria Pinner. Jennifer Evans. Thelma Longoria. Avea Reyes. Bob Spina. Alma Molieri, who's also one of our staff that signed up to take this class as a new employee. James Watson. Joe Peters. Ashley Ybarra. Yvonne Hawthorne. Tina Angel. Ramil Samanov. And Heather Surya. That is our graduating class of 2024 for the Team Kyle Academy. I would like to give all of these individuals a hand for completing the course and doing a great job. All right. If I can have y'all kind of gather up our short people in the front and our taller people in the back, we'll take a really quick group photo.
Oh, just about. Yvonne, I just need you and Heather to move in a little bit if possible. I want to get the podium out of the way.
Yeah, here.
All right. Oh, no, that's good.
That's
I got
fine.
it.
Okay, you're good. Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you, guys.
Congratulations. Thank you, Team
All right, thank y'all so
Academy.
much.
Thank you.
We also have some cake out in the lobby if anyone would like to join.
You want to do a quick break so that y'all can go see? Pretty early though. All right. All right, we're gonna do a 10-minute break. We're gonna reconvene at exactly 7:45. That'll be an 8-minute break. Thank you. All right, the time is 7:47. I'm going to call this meeting back to order. Next up is the consent agenda items 4 through 7. Is there any of these items that y'all want to discuss individually?
Is there any presentations for any of them, like we need to go over, or just, no?
Just motions?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right, motion by Councilmember Parsley, seconded by Councilmember Heiser that we approve the consent agenda, items 4 through 7. Is there discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries 5 to 0. All right. Next up is agenda item number 8, consideration of the vote at the reconsideration of the vote at the May 22nd, 2024 City Council meeting to consider approval of an ordinance amending Chapter 53 zoning of the Code of Ordinances, rezoning approximately 45.3 acres of land from retail services to planned unit development, 29.9 acres retail services, 15.4 acres retail, R33 for property located at 22675 I-35. This item failed at the last meeting on a 3-3 vote. Per the rules of council, reconsideration may be brought back by any member who requests it at the following meeting. That item has been requested to be brought back, and so it's back before us. But before we can take up the item itself, we need to first take a vote to reconsider. I'm on the side of wanting to reconsider, so I will motion to reconsider.
Second.
All right, motion by Mayor, second by Mayor Pro Tem that we reconsider. This is not the vote on the item, but just to take up the item. Is there discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries 7-0. So now the item is back up before us. First reading, consider approval of an ordinance amending Chapter 53 zoning of the City of Code of Ordinances with the outlines described in the previous item. This item is posted with a public hearing, but we already had one. I don't know what the rules are on reconsideration, if we need to redo the public hearing, even though it wasn't properly noticed for this meeting.
So we did already have the properly noticed public hearing. We did, however, put a notice in the newspaper for this meeting to inform residents who may have gone to the last meeting that it was going to be reconsidered. It might be appropriate to allow any of those to speak, although I think several people already spoke during public comment.
All right, so we will allow, if you want to come and say your piece again, we'll go and do it, even though it's not a technical public hearing, but just for the sake of transparency. So if you want to come and say your piece, state your name, 3 minutes, and go again.
Hi, my name is April Perlman. So I guess like my thing is it's going to be inevitable. I think the worst thing with politics is nobody can like agree to disagree. I feel like we should balance. I understand that they want an amphitheater and all of these kind of things. I think that's a great opportunity for Kyle to evolve. I'm not opposed to evolving. I come from a non-evolving state, but I also come from a state that is way better than Texas when it comes to the wildlife and it comes to the environment. My biggest thing on this is dollar signs, right? That's at the end of the day is what all these men behind me are thinking. There's still no solution to the owls, to the animals, and to the area. People can laugh at dinner and say, oh, she's just there for the animals, but at the end of the day, this land has been here. So I want to hear what they have as a solution for some type of environmental consultant. I know that we're also opposing the 80 acres to, parks and outside that, Mr. Robert and me, we were talking about. Maybe somehow, some way, transporting those animals to that area of wildlife so we just don't slaughter them, because they're not going to go through this property and make sure that these animals are okay. We said something about nesting season. That's all they're worried about, and then they just want to bulldoze it because they're making multi-million dollars and they're going back home to their family while everybody on this road still lives here. So I just oppose that. I guess not oppose. I do oppose the housing, I do oppose all the traffic, and I do oppose the water. But most importantly, I'm willing to agree to disagree that we still need to do something about the land and the animals. And I would appreciate it if you guys, outside of your big paychecks, also have a heart to understand that, there's innocent. And I wrote a bunch of Bible verses that for the people that are godly and all of that aspect, for them to go back and read that as well. So I just would like to hear the environmental consultant on top of everything else that they're talking about. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward and speak? And please state your name for the record.
Hey y'all, my name is Jay Hauk. I was here last time and I spoke on this and I wasn't very eloquent last time, so I'm gonna try again. I'm about 30 years old. I've been living here about 5 years now. And all I've really seen around here is a bunch of suburbs, and it's really hard to afford any of those when they're all $400,000. The things I've heard for the developers say is that they're going to try and keep these under under $300,000. That's affordable. Like, young people can actually afford to live here instead of leaving and going to Austin, right? I understand that there's concerns about water use, but time and time again, the studies show that multifamily units use half the water that single-family homes do. Watering your lawn, washing your car, all that stuff is not going to happen in an apartment complex or in a flat or in a townhome. These are all things that we need to consider, right? So I just hope that you guys, really think about this and maybe vote yes. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Mr. Letts, I understand that there's been some engagement with the developer between last time and this time. I do want to remind the council that the development agreement itself is not before us. We're discussing it, but the actual contents won't be presented before the council, assuming it moves past first reading, until second reading. And for the developers who are listening, I think maybe that's something we'll change moving forward so that we can have the development agreement running with first reading contingent upon approval at second reading so that we have both documents in front of us. But Mr. Litz, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I'm going to go ahead and give a very similar presentation I did last time. So some of you have seen this. Bear with me. I know it's just a couple of slides to go through, but Mr. Zuniga wasn't able to be here, so I want to kind of touch on this as the whole project itself. So when we're looking at the project, oh, this clicker's not working. So this is a planned unit development. Again, that's what's under consideration for tonight. This will allow multifamily, residential, commercial, and office. As you mentioned, again, there's going to be an additional DA request and a 380 request that you'll see at a later date. The DA is going to cover our development standards, building materials, phasing, utility capacity, upgrades, water, sewer, TIA improvements, and then telecom modifications along I-35. The 380 is going to focus on the economic incentives and the triggers for those development upgrades. Again, those two agreements should be for you at the next meeting, hopefully. I did want to touch base before we get into the full-blown discussion of the PUD to remember that, again, this is a zoning. We have a recently updated comprehensive plan. So this is what our comprehensive plan, which was adopted in January of 2024, says. This area is cited as an urban mixed-use different area for our future land use classification. That's why you're seeing the commercial and the residential proposed at this site together. This includes multi-story commercial, hotels, townhomes, office apartments, and again, and additional vertical mixed uses. So the location map, I think everybody knows where we're at. I just want to touch base again. East and west side of the property, even though it's two parcels, is designed as one cohesive unit. The property is mentioned before. It's in TERS number 6. So redevelopment of this TERS, they're looking at $9.6 million in property tax over the next 20 years. And again, the improvements on this property will help fund the additional improvements that we're looking at making in the downtown area. So that's important to keep in your mind as well. As far as retail services zoning, there's approximately 29 acres on this tract. 15.4 acres are looking at traditional R3 apartments. They again, 350 multifamily units max on the R3, and then a minimum of 20 or a maximum of 39 on parcel 1. Again, council and P&Z made that recommendation. They want to ensure multifamily, but they want to make sure that it doesn't become too much, too excessive, or get too little. So that's why you see the minimum max added. We're looking at a minimum of 150,000 square feet of commercial uses and office. And then this plan has been updated to require 55,000 square feet of commercial within the phase 1 portion. As discussed last time, the project's going to establish 2 base zoning districts. So in red, you'll have the residential services, and then the orange, you'll have the R3 traditional multifamily. And those parcels are outlined. So parcel 1 is west of 150, that's retail services, and then parcel 3 is the multifamily to the north. Parcel 2 is more commercial to the south. The phasing plan has been updated, so I'm going to talk about parcels. I'm also going to talk about phasing tonight, so I want to make sure that you all kind of understand where we're going with that. Phase 1 is going to be parcel 1 and parcel 3, so west of 150 and the northern part, the multifamily section, which phase 2 being the southern part east of FM 150. So here's a slide kind of laying out your phases versus your parcels. And so if you get confused, please feel free to ask me to clarify. So R1 phase 1, or I'm sorry, the RS parcel for phase 1 is designed to be a destination development. Again, retail, restaurant, residential, office, hotel, and buy spot offerings. This PUD will allow some lower setbacks of 20 feet, 0 for interior lot lines, no minimum lot size. It allows cross-access easement, very similar to other developments that we've done recently. Again, this will include 24 residential townhomes and 15 residential flats. Parcel 2, which is phase 2, is going to be an entertainment retail hub. This is going to be adjacent to the multifamily parcel. Again, outdoor gathering spaces, additional amenities, water features, dog parks, picnic areas. It's very more rural and helpful to the citizens. This is not just going to be for the development itself. P&Z also recommended a slight change, and this was discussed last time, prohibited uses. We want this development to be a vital portion of our city's economic future. So this is kind of our standard prohibited uses that we see that we want to take out and that may not be ideal for this area. Generally, convenience stores with gas station are prohibited, but P&Z made a recommendation to allow just a standalone convenience store so that the people that live there, if they wanted everyday items, household items, they could go and get
Standalone,
them.
not meaning
No gas.
no gas, but
No
not
gas.
standalone apart. It would need to be a part of the planned unit development.
Yes.
So it would be a part of a multi-story mixed-use area, not standalone like a gas station without gas.
There could be a property where it's part of if you look at this, there's a couple of buildings that are kind of quasi. We haven't seen where those layouts will go, but correct, it's not going to be standalone like a gas station. It will be incorporated as part of this development. So parcel 3, again, traditional multifamily, maximum 350 units. Our parking ratios at 1.3. Typical setbacks 25 front, 15 from Mikey Court on the rear, and then 0 on interior side lot lines. Parkland dedication is a big component of this development. They're going to dedicate approximately 13.5 acres of floodplain parkland, as well as vibe trails and vibe spots. So this Exhibit C will satisfy all the parkland dedication, including parkland improvement fees for the development. All the parkland will be maintained by the developer at their cost, but will be open to the public, privately maintained, and then it'll kind of generally follow our general park hours for operations. Here's an image of kind of showing the trails. We have a 10-foot use path along I-35. Then vibe trails in the floodplain area, the very densely wooded area. Again, that area is kind of slated to be left alone so that can be a natural trail, floodplain, and not too much disturbance in those locations. This is just kind of a vibe spot showing where that will be within the phase 1 on the commercial section, and then these are some renderings of what that area might look like. And I'll discuss the vibe spot a little bit later when we talk certificate of occupancies and changes that had come out from the last meeting. The development agreement is going to focus more on the development itself. It's going to focus on building materials and development standards. Again, utility capacity, what that allotment is. They're asking for X amount of LUEs, 500. A little over 500, which is what has been modeled for this parcel as part of our water and wastewater model. So we're in line with what this property's been planned for the entire time. And then it's going to focus on those text dot improvements when they're required and when PEC upgrades and relocation of some of those telecoms is going to be taking place as well. The development agreement, as far as building materials go, they're looking at 60% masonry, stone stucco. 40% is required to be brick, and then the rest can be kind of a mixture of those, either glazing, window treatments, different things. And that's going to focus, again, on setbacks, cross-access, and land uses outlined in the PUD. Oh, sorry. Some of the conceptual designs, this is a proposed water tower. This is actually an electronic sign billboard that may be used to advertise local events that will be happening at the property. And then the next few images focus mostly on the retail components of what these areas might look like. Again, vibe spot, retail, some of the art that's projected to be in the retail section. And then there's their sign package, which is unique to this development. So at the last meeting on May 22nd, council had several concerns or requests that was discussed during the meeting. And that they were wanting to ensure timely development of the commercial space, again, traffic improvements, and those other amenities to support the development. The developer made several accommodations, kind of responding to each of council's requests, so I'll go through those kind of individually right now. The first request was increase the amount of square feet of the commercial constructed in phase 1. I believe we were sitting at 35,000. That's been increased to 55,000 square feet. And again, phase 1, and this will be moved to parcel 1. So originally they were kind of going to focus on the multifamily on the east side and that phase 2, and they're shifting that over to parcel 1. And so that's how they kind of restructured it. Parcel 1 is now phase 1. That'll be the main driver. All phase 1 amenities will be completed prior to payment of any incentives as part of the 380 agreement. These are tentative timelines. Phase 1 completion December 27 with phase 2 in December of 2028. The next request was require commercial aspects on parcel 1 before the multifamily could issue a certificate of occupancy. So the applicant came forward and said, okay, parcel 1 is phase 1. They cannot get a CO for any of the multifamily until that 55,000 square feet of commercial is constructed or the parking garage is constructed. So either one can be done first before they can get those C of Os. This is going to guarantee that construction of the commercial space or the parking garage is done before the multifamily is done. So it won't just be a multifamily project. We're going to get some commercial.
Jason, on that point, is it possible, will it be possible for the developer to surface park and forego the parking garage based on the PUD design? Will they be forced to do it? So it's not a situation where they could say, well, I'm going to skip the parking garage, I'll put the retail in, but I'm going to surface park it, and then I get my multifamily.
So yes, they could surface park it for the interim and build the 55,000 square feet, then get their multifamily. However, the 380 is structured that the parking garage has to be done in phase one, so they wouldn't get any incentives until that is done. So financially, it makes sense that they complete those before moving on, or again, there's no economic benefit to them at that point. So yes, they can get a multifamily before the parking garage is done. They can surface park up to a point, depending on how much commercial is done. At that point, it may trigger the requirement for that parking garage based on parking ratios.
Can Brian, do you have can you elaborate more on that situation?
I think the intent was to not do that. And so I think if we want to add some language in there that's a condition that you would not be able to surface park it, that the intent is that you have the 55,000 commercial square footage in, or the parking garage, that you're going to.
Just put and, that'll solve it, instead of or.
That's totally your discretion, council.
Look, it's not without reason that we make that request. We've had development projects dangle garages and say they're going to do something, but really they're going to surface park it, and maybe long down the road in some future phase they might put the garage in. The incentive is negotiating for the garage. So we want to make sure that what we're putting in place will allow for the garage to be constructed and the retail to be constructed concurrently, but not long after the apartments are put in. So I would like to change that word to and. Just want to put that out there, because I still see that as a way for the multifamily to go forward without the lion's share of the amenities that we're negotiating for being realized.
Understood.
I agree with you on that.
Anything else before I move on to the next slide? So again, commercial aspects on parcel one before CM of the multifamily, and you made the note that you want to discuss the garage and the timing. The next request was be allowed.
Or the other option is to amend the PUD document similar to the Lake Park District that we just did, Rick Sheldon's project. That project, the density and the way the PUD is structured just does not allow for surface parking, meaning if the project moves forward, you must build the garage because you don't have enough parking spaces in the PUD document. Basically, the garage is a part of the master planning, and you have to phase that in. You can't do it without. So either way, amending the PUD document to be consistent with the Lake Park District, or requiring the CO, the completion of the garage and 50,000 square feet of retail before the CO on the multifamily. Either one of those will accomplish that. But I think we're halfway there. I don't think we've quite gotten the full hook in. So.
Understood. I touched on this a little bit on the prohibited use list. Again, we want to allow the convenience store provide groceries, daily supplies for the residents of the development. We just don't want a gas station, so they've agreed to do that. They've amended that PUD document. Again, it ensures that groceries and necessities are available for the neighborhood, so that they're not on our streets traveling to other areas if they don't have to. The next request was a minimum in addition to the maximum of the number of 39 residential units. Again, that was done. We put the maximum in because we didn't want a gluttony of apartments or flats on that project. But we added the minimum number of 20 just to make sure that we don't get, we would get some. Again, this will ensure that parcel one complies with the city's comprehensive plan. Again, this calls out as an urban mixed use, so we have to have both those uses on there to be in line with our comp plan. Bless you. The next request was require completion of the vibe trail prior to CO on the multifamily parcel. So the applicant added language saying that they'll build the vibe trail prior to getting any COs for the multifamily. Again, this will provide residents with pedestrian connectivity with the development to the access to the parkland and along with the other residents of the area. Next request was the vibe spot. Council had some concerns about that being built towards the end. Again, that's an amenity, so you wanted the adjacent commercial to kind of be tied to that vibe spot. So the applicant has agreed to say they will build the vibe spot before the last CEO for the adjacent retail buildings. So all the buildings immediately around it, not the ones further to the south or to the north, but all those immediate in the immediate vicinity.
And I will add that I think those elements are all good, and the model, I know it was said earlier about New Braunfels and others, but the model that we're trying to put this after comes from Cedar Park. So Cedar Park put together a mixed-use project very similar to the structure here, but what Cedar Park, and it's close to their downtown, was highly amenitized. There's a lot of multifamily as well, but they made sure that the amenities and the retail were part of the first phase. So it's what the developer is doing first. It's right there in their I Heart Cedar Park downtown district. Retail comes first, amenities comes first, and then with that, the developer can build out the multifamily at their leisure. But that's what Cedar Park negotiated for. They were successful. We had not been successful before that, but we think that that's the model that really gets everybody what they want.
Yes, sir. I think another concern council had was adding language showing a commitment to water and electric conservation. Obviously, water's been a big issue, not just for Kyle, but for the entire South Texas region. So they did add a section dedicated to water and electric conservation. Again, this kind of new added language is going to ensure that they're in line with our drought contingency plans, compliance with our dark sky ordinance, and help limit light pollution. A couple of the options that they have in there, they are going to require their multifamily to do AC condensation and rainwater collection to help service and offset those water demands for the multifamily section. They're also promising or agreeing to install purple pipe so that if we ever move forward with our reuse program, that this site will be available to be utilized as part of that. So pretty big changes added there at the end of that.
All right, I want to jump in on that section just for a second. So I think what's given the council and the public, it's been mentioned many, many times, it's what's giving us heartburn. Obviously, we want to make sure that the plan conserves water as a whole, which is what's being discussed. But that very sort of bright, shiny object, paddle boarding, water feature, I think potentially that was conceived before we started recognizing the new future of the whole region struggling with substantial droughts. So it's really the optics of the way that particular feature, which I'm assuming is intended to be a retention pond of some kind that you're adding in. But if it's not, if it's truly an amenity, it's actually, I would say it's politically in particular dragging the project down. So what I would suggest is, number one, we would suggest language like to say, in your phasing says it's not coming in until 2028 on this phase 2. So obviously that's far in advance. We have major water projects anticipated to come online before that. But we could add some language to ensure that you couldn't fill that water feature until we had received our water and we were no longer in any drought restrictions whatsoever. That'd be one way. But that's really sort of like we're devaluing the thing you're trying to use to create value, and so nobody's really winning. To me, the solution is to scrap the idea of a major potable water feature like this that uses many gallons just for kayaking and things like that, where folks can go elsewhere, and redesign that as a new amenity that maybe flips the conversation and is actually a model for come over here and enjoy yourself and look how little water we have to use in order to shade and plantings and things like that. You'd find such a better response. It's a lightning rod for us, and even though we want to get as close to water as we can, it's scorching hot outside, that particular way of delivering water as an amenity in this particular project, I don't know if you can come up with a new way between first and second reading. I think you'd find a lot of help with that. Dr. Harris.
One of the things I'd like to bring up on that issue is that whole area slopes down to that water fixture, so you're going to have draining a lot. And if you make it non-potable, which you don't have people going in the water, and we don't have to CEQ approval of that pond for people to be in it, then you can actually channel that water down to that retention area. And then there's a little concern perhaps about flooding and channeling it on out, because that area goes down to Lake Kyle. That gully behind your property goes down to Lake Kyle. So I'm thinking, what the mayor is saying, maybe not potable where swimming could be allowed, but a water feature that takes advantage of that existing water flow with maybe some supplemental from our other sources would be a good thing.
Yeah, it's almost like changing the language. Instead of it saying this great feature that will use potable, it's there will be a feature and it shall not use potable water. I think that's more along the lines of where we're at. Councilor Tobias.
So we're talking about the pond, right? Okay, are we basically eliminating that, or is it just keeping it there but not using the water to refill it on that? Because I've taken photos of the area and I've driven out there, and you're right, Ms. Harris, Councilmember Harris, there is a creek that's behind there. So are we in the same spot? We're talking about the same area?
It's the same creek. It flows straight across Lehman into the new Lake Kyle, which is designed to handle a lot more flood water than we're even putting in now because of the expansion.
Okay.
But it's right there. It just feeds right into the massive Lake Kyle. So the goal should be to get the water off the property and into Lake Kyle as fast as possible.
Yep.
Mayor and Council, if I could, I've had some discussion with the developer, and I think it's been designed to be an amenity that we thought would be attractive, but I think there are other options potentially, and I think Mr. Daly could probably speak to that in a moment about some other opportunities that could be presented to the council for that amenity.
You could flip it on its head. Make it be an example of how to use water. And you're welcome to step up. Jason's he's like.
Get me off the hot seat.
Yeah, well, might as well.
Yeah, so just quickly on that. And
State your name.
Todd Daly, I'm sorry. Todd Daly with Capella. And I want to introduce Erpy. She is my project manager that's helped me every step of the way, and I thought that it would be important to bring her up today because she does sometimes a better job of presenting some of these challenges than I do. But as Brian mentioned, and thank you again, Mayor, City Council, City staff, Brian, for having us back up. The idea was to build all these amenities because when we first had this showing in December, we thought that this is what the city wanted. And we were trying to give you the best show possible that we thought the city would be behind. These water features are not necessary. I've got our civil engineer here, Carrie, the land planner, Gary, another attorney that helps put all these PUDs and development agreements and everything together is here as well. So the idea is we don't need these water features. We don't even need retention. We've already had the study done that says we don't need any of this. So as far as, we could turn these water features, if that's what the city wants, this council wants, then these can become natural parklands. I don't really care to disturb them. I'd rather have them natural. It doesn't cost me anything. It's not going to help or hurt my rental rates as far as I'm concerned because we can do different things to make it look attractive, whether it's swing sets and park benches or whatever. So, that whole pond could turn into be nothing but a natural park.
Is that pond in your pro forma for reimbursement
Yes.
as a part of the incentive?
It is.
So obviously you'd be willing to reduce the incentive
absolutely.
if we
Yeah.
took it out.
We'll
I'm not advocating that you do that because what I want, that vision that you're talking about, everything about that is true, but there's a kind of a poison that's gone with that,
Right.
which is a good idea about a great potable water features because we care about that. But the landscape has changed. How long have you been negotiating this deal? How long have you owned that property, Todd?
3 years.
All right, so it's changed a lot in the last
Sure,
3 years.
I understand.
So we just need flexibility and forgiveness if we're the ones or staff is the one that led you to believe that the kayaking, paddleboarding experience was the right amenity. But if I'm not saying de-amenitize and lower the quality of what you're proposing. What I'm saying is replace something that has a bad optic with something that has an even better optic, something that's valuable to the pedestrians that we're trying to attract, as well as the residents and the shoppers that we're proud of, not just turn it into greenfield, which is not helpful really to anyone. It's just unmowed, unkempt detention ponds, which don't look that great.
Yeah, and so, Burpee, introduce yourself, please.
Yeah. So do we want Jason to finish? Sorry, we're like.
No, we're good. He'll step back up. Go. Let's stay right here in this water feature conversation. He'll come back up.
Yes, we definitely want to work with the community. From the beginning, this project is for the community, and we're here, we're listening to what they're saying, so we want them to know that we care. So we will do what is necessary to provide this amenity, to work with what the geography and just our constraints, and make sure that they understand that we care about Kyle. So we were willing to do the water feature and go back to the drawing board and see what we can do to make sure that that's what speaks to the community, that we do care.
Councilor Parsley.
Okay, so this is just that right there, it's like a big plus for me moving the needle. But what I'm thinking is, and again, I'm not some sort of design person, that maybe we can use some of those reclaim systems that we're planning on doing the water collection. And since the water, it's already going that way, I don't know if there is a possibility, maybe considering doing a community garden open to the city of Kyle. That will help with the preservation of the ecosystem for all of the wildlife that we have right there, which addresses some of the concerns that one of the residents was bringing forward.
Well, Carrie, I don't know. Carrie's our civil engineer, and so this is where it's out of my realm. She knows how to capture water, revegetate it, and do.
Hi, I'm Carrie Bressler. I'm a project manager at TDI Engineers. We're the civil engineering consultant on the project. And there's kind of a lot of things to address here, but we have looked at the drainage, and the project, because of its proximity to the floodplain, the creek that goes to Lake Kyle, it's unlikely to need full detention, as much detention as another site might need. And so there is water that will be running off that we could work with to do some kind of natural feature. The parkland is where most of the trees are on the site. I don't know if anyone noticed on the aerial, but so the uplands is where most of the development is, and that's been mowed and used over time, and so there's not really a lot of trees there. So there's all kinds of things that can be done in the final design, but right now, we're not quite there. We don't know, the Vibe Trail is aligned on the map. We don't have the exact alignment, for instance. So I don't know what we would bring back by next reading, but we could definitely flip the amenity on its head and do something with stormwater, do something with community involvement. I mean, this is...
Sure. This goes back to, so Gary's our land planner that's helped put this whole plan together for us over the years.
So my question next will be, if we are not using the water feature anymore and we are thinking about something else, then will that be able to be moved to phase one?
So, that's a hard answer. I'm still, come on up, Burpee, but, so I'm still, after the last city council meeting, saying, I've flipped phase one to phase two, and now I'm back on phase one. And the idea, I thought, was that everybody wanted me to focus on the 35, 150 west side corridor first.
That's still true.
We're trying to, I think the goal in here is to try to work with you. Like, I don't want to vote no. Like, I would like to see if there is any way that we can, I don't know if postponing or something, like to give you time to do some sort of tabling of the phases, or how does that work?
My recommendation would be to redo the language. You don't necessarily have to change the exhibits, but it's something like that. You can point a feature or an amenity like this, but then just add that it won't have potable water, and it shall not have potable water, which gives you some time, because you don't have to design this multi-year into the future potential amenity, but you need to describe it sufficient that we know what you're going to get in exchange for the incentive. Dr. Harris.
One of the advantages to doing it that way is that it also enhances the wildlife, because you're right, most of the wildlife is to that side of your parcel. And if you do a natural filled pond, then you're going to have ducks and waterfowl and access for the birds to water. So it will actually enhance the wildlife in that area, which would be a wonderful thing.
Just really quick, I just wanted to address in regards to the phasing. We did have this pond in phase 1, but after listening to you guys' request, we have changed it to phase 2, and that helps because the water that you guys might receive whenever that happens, so that will also be helpful for that, and then that will give us more time to kind of just study the area while we work on the other.
I'm still good. I'm still personally very good with that.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to make a note that our purple pipe water will be potable water, essentially, fairly soon, almost in time with their
Let's get staff to weigh in, because that's a relevant question. If we're asking you to put in the purple pipe infrastructure, we have the capacity at the plant. We've been making that conversion. We're doing purple pipe across 150, but we're still at Waterleaf with our purple pipe, and I don't know that we've brought it up 150. So is it in the CIP? Is it worth us asking for the developer to put this in and potentially even making it a part of an incentivized project if we don't have intention of immediately putting a CIP together for that reclaimed water?
We don't have an intention to put that at that area right now. We're still evaluating that. STV is doing our water master plan. One of the concerns that we have is that the purple pipe system has a place. Some of it will be important to have. We've had the golf course and up into the sportsplex area that we've already determined that could be higher water users, and it makes a lot of sense. But building out potentially a $160 million pipe system to the rest of the city may not make the most sense, given that it's only about 4 million gallons per day of water. So we have many other options to look at to see, is that the most cost-effective and the most environmentally friendly approach to do that? And that's what STV has been hired to do. Our initial understanding and our initial thoughts on this is that it probably does not make the most sense to do that we shouldn't be investing that kind of money in purple pipe. But I don't have a definitive offset of what the other plan is just yet. Could it involve additional water sources? If you think about 4 million gallons a day, how you could actually procure that water, bring that into the city, and what would the cost of that be versus this other alternative? Do you want to look at indirect or direct potable? So there's a lot of factors, but I think the bottom line is we don't have anything in the near future that's going to be at that project.
So let me translate that for you, Todd. We're asking you to put purple pipe infrastructure into your system because for many years the council has been trying to develop out our purple pipe. We see it as really valuable, and we have some purple pipe infrastructure, but not very much. We've recently received grants to develop out a reclaimed water master plan. So the reason that staff is asking that of you is because that's a part of our long-term plan. However, if we were to say, all right, well, instead of reusing the water and sending it back up through a separate pipe, we were to come to the conclusion that we're going to take that water and retreat it and send it back through the same pipes, then we've asked you to put in infrastructure that will just never be used. And you're in the crossroads of a city trying to find out the answer to that question, and we don't have the answer to that question just yet. So it's another factor to take into consideration. We don't want you to use potable water unless we've gotten so good at our water system that we're taking potable water that's being flushed back into the system, reusing it and sending it back up, effectively allowing for our water supply to be very sufficient. But we don't know that we're going to do that yet.
Right.
So we don't know what to tell you to do.
Well,
you can wait for a few years.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'd like to get started as soon as possible. So back to, we can address that as we're going through these planning stages in the next 6 to 12 months, and we're getting everything started and ramped up, and we all come to these conclusions with our environmentalists and our landscapers and all our engineers that know how to make sense of this, because, I don't. That's not just my bread and butter, right? I don't understand that conceptual. I just know to hire the best people possible to put the team together to do the right project. And that's why we're here today. Back to back to this area that's undisturbed. I could care less. I mean, personally, and Brian and I talked about it, I don't want to disturb any of it. If there's owls and there's birds and there's other wildlife, that's not what I want to do. I mean, the reason we put a trail through there, bike trail, is to connectivity to the whole, the whole design of the whole retail development and the mixed-use development. So the less we disturb, the better, as far as I'm concerned. The less we disturb, the less I have to maintain. I mean, the idea originally was, let's clean it all up. But if the city wants us to leave it more natural, then so be it. I'm good with that. So again, that's another thing that we're willing to do to make it, a plausible development.
I think this discussion can be codified in a development agreement, Amy, don't you? You think we can come up with some language, because we're not going to have the answers, but that speaks to various scenarios legally and says that, we're not going to use potable water unless such a time as the city grants an exception to use potable water, that they need to use purple pipe to reclaim it unless the city gives them an exemption because of change in master plan. And if they build out if they leave it natural, obviously there's not an incentive for them. Like, those things can all be, we don't have to have it all spelled out on these very small issues relative to the size and scope of the whole project.
No, I mean, I think what we need to spell out is that there's going to be some sort of park amenity there, whether it's a water feature or a natural green space. And then we can leave that, we can find some flexibility in there for different options for that park space.
That was the thing I was saying, because that was going to be public space, so making sure that stays public, so that way we can do the vibe trail, we can have maybe even some bird watching stations, something. I mean, I don't know, sky's the limit now, but making sure that stays a public space is real important to me, because that's what we were advertising as a public space. So I'm good without the water feature. Some of the things we could do, even, one of the things this conversation is doing, we do have development going out throughout the city, so doing things that we can do to be proactive for the wildlife is something I was thinking about it. The conversation you and I had earlier in the week about, the wildlife, I'm thinking the city could do a better job of doing owl boxes, or even creating habitat in the parks that we've got right now. This trail, the creek there, runs right back to the Lake Kyle, which is a great spot to start, relocating wildlife naturally as it's going through some of it. So we could create places of sanctuary for animals. So making sure that we're continuing to, as a city, as we get development, making sure in the parkland that we're having, we're doing all we can for the wildlife. And that's something I think our park staff can really take a lead on.
Also, like La Verde has a water feature, and it does not use a lot of water, so something like that would still be compatible with what you're trying to do. So, like the mayor said, I would not want you, Todd, to make your development lesser in the amenity. So, but I agree with the council. The drinking water to fill, it's a little harder to see that, but non-potable water would be the better course.
So we went to Scottsdale a few months ago to tour a regional sportsplex. So we're trying to build soccer fields and baseball fields, and all that uses water as well. So we're trying to figure out, how do we handle that? Did you know Scottsdale gets 6 inches of rain annually, and they have to bring in their water in aqueducts, and they don't do artificial turf because the heat makes it terrible. So they water everything, it's just the result of good city planning. And so these agreements, I think, are important for us to set ourselves up long term, but you never know what the future holds. So my suggestion would be for council, because we do not have a development agreement to vote on, the 380/381, would that come with the development agreement and second? Is there a 381 or just 380? All right, so the 380 and the DA would come concurrently with second reading? Is that the intent?
That's the plan. That assumes that we can get all of this negotiated and back by second reading.
All right, can we pass it first reading, a zoning, and then give direction for second reading not to come back for
I have a question
an
before.
extra amount of time? I'm not going to make a motion. I'm just
Okay.
curious. I would like to know.
Yeah, in theory, yes, you can make a motion for second reading to come back when the DA is available. There's nothing in
And
the
the
charter that
380
requires them to be
documents are
consecutive.
ready, so that it doesn't necessarily come back if y'all aren't ready and we're forced to just postpone indefinitely.
And there, I think our goal is to get this on the next meeting. That's everybody's goal.
But if you're not ready, we don't, if you can
We'll be
wait for
ready.
the follow, all right. Councilmember Parsley.
Okay, so I have questions for page number 35, so I don't know if you guys need to, because that's where my real issue is.
One more.
Page 35 of your presentation, that's what I really need to dig into.
My presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it
Well-
okay if I let Councilmember Heiser go?
Oh, yeah,
He hasn't gone
if you
yet.
have questions for, before that, then I'm good, yeah.
Okay, Councilmember Heiser, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just want
He
to
hadn't
make a
gotten
couple general statements and some requests. You know, the retail is one thing we haven't talked about yet tonight, I don't think. And initially, we, back in December, let you know that it was a priority of ours to try to be very mindful of the types of retail you're bringing into your development. And I very much know the challenges that come with that, with, you know, trying to lower rates for small businesses or more unique businesses, non-chain businesses. But, I mean, we're having a pretty open dialogue here, and I feel like, at least in my 18 months on council, I've never seen this governing body learn and react in real time like it has with this development. And looking back at some of the oversights with past decisions, and I don't want to let this one go with applying a little pressure here, with trying to be creative with how we can find ways to make sure that there are homes for local and hyper-local businesses in your retail spaces. And I think one of the reasons is, like, what we're also not talking about is this is anchoring the downtown, like the east side of our downtown. And there is a massive opportunity for you to set a precedent for what the rest of our downtown development can look like. And I think it sends a message to the city, to our residents, that this is something that is very, very important to us, that our downtown is not, I think someone up here said, or someone like drive-through type environment. That is absolutely not what we want. And I know that you know that. But we're all talking very creatively about how we can get around water features and all these other things. And this is something that's going to be very important for me between now and when this comes back, is how you can figure out a way, whether, you want to do ghost kitchens in some of the retail spaces, which offers, lower rents for small businesses to get off the ground. I don't know what right now, but I think that's at least a priority for me, and I'm going to bring that back up the next time we have this discussion. And a general thought on density to the gentleman who made the comment about affordability. A lot of the folks who've critiqued this development and said that we are, they hate apartments and it's too many people and we're overcrowded and water use and, the outcome of denying density is denying affordability for our city. And I don't think, and I didn't understand that before I got into this position, so, it's on us to educate. But we can't, if we keep building single-family, residential developments that are just major drains on our water system, and we're not thinking about how to build around centers of density with existing infrastructure, we're never going to be able to lower our cost of living here. And the same thing with the addition of retail, because that pays us back over the course of the long term. So, yeah, I think we've done a good job. Well, most of you, because I didn't say a damn thing in the last meeting. And, so I think this is a really good exercise, and, thank you for playing along. I hope you're taking notes, because, I don't even know
That's why I have
half the
everybody
stuff
here.
we've said here.
We rewatch.
But if you can think about how we can be creative with making sure that there's opportunity for.
Last thing
All
I
right,
say too.
Councilmember Zuniga.
Yeah, so I have heard from the community, and obviously 350 units sounds like a lot there, but it does fit with the comprehensive plan. We're dealing with with traffic, that's one component. But one request that I would like to make, and I know you might be flexible on it, is the parcel one with the flats. The townhomes, I can understand there, but if the flats don't really add more into the project, that would help remove some traffic on 150. I needed to say that part
Sure,
of it.
sure.
And I think the mini mart is essential that I would like to see coming into this development because what you're bringing, it really adds a lot of uniformity and fits, and is very compatible with trying to solve some of the problems that we have there, specifically in that location.
Right.
So you're solving a lot of problems if we work, thinking long future use of that area.
So to answer your question, and I'll get back to you shortly. The townhome idea was brought to us by city, actually, it was brought to us by the ex-city manager that he wanted flats there.
All right.
So we decided we would incorporate flats where the townhomes exist today.
What is a flat?
Right.
What is that? That's
There's only
like
15 of
British
them.
something, right?
It's just one flat floor where you put people on top of each other. I mean, and they have, in one room you have a kitchen, a bathroom, a bedroom, and that's it, I guess.
So you said
I
you'd
mean-
prefer just to make it retail. So I say just leave it retail. Just leave it retail.
I want to leave that up to council because
Right.
I don't really make any, that's not
Right.
any bread and butter for me whatsoever. So if all the townhomes and the flats go away, I'm fine with that. I'm letting y'all decide if that's what y'all as a group want to do. I mean, I'm open to, it doesn't benefit me. Do I like the component to the mixed use? It looks great to me. I mean, I've seen it work. But if everybody says, hey, you've got enough 350 units across the street, we don't need any more, I'm okay with that. So that's kind of the flexibility I have towards that component, whether it's the townhomes, the flats, or either or. So I'm open to that idea. Back to the locals, right? So I'm talking to the guys that bought Rudy's, Mighty Finds, Tony C's. They own probably 6 or 8 different local, and there's already a Mighty Find down the road, of course. And there's already, I don't know if there's a Tony C's out here.
We know those guys. That guy.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I'm already in contact with them. I'm trying to contact as many local vendors, groups in the Central Texas area as possible, then reach out to the National Texas group. We're going to do a lot of soliciting to Texas before we go anywhere else. My idea is to make this whole thing successful and build the whole thing out. And so I don't want it to stall like the Domain, for example. I mean, it just stopped because of economics and other things.
Lack of
So,
residential
yeah.
is what they would say.
So there's I've got to have some flexibility, but I'm going to do my best to do everything internally moving outward as I move through this project in the future. And that's what our team is told.
Yeah, I'm not asking for the totality of the retail to all be, kind of what I had described, but, a little bit would be nice.
A little bit,
'Cause
there'll be-
You'd be, at least I think you'd be the first to do that.
The challenge is the nicer you require the facilities to be, the way the market would work is that they should charge small businesses more, not less, because they're more risky clients than national tenants. The national tenants get the discount because they are the more reliable income stream, and the banks are the ones that make a lot of those decisions. So if you require it to be a local tenant without providing some kind of assurance, you're basically saying, we require you to take more risk, which is not even up to him to make those decisions. The banks are the ones that make those decisions. So
That's in total conflict with the challenges of starting a small business, which I know is why it's difficult, but.
that's right. That's why they fail. So the point being that a lot of times how you get away from the national change is that you don't allow for the land use to be to happen in such a pattern that chains and drive-throughs, like eliminating drive-throughs or restricting the amount, which I know we have in this project, eliminates a ton of chains, and very few local businesses are trying to do drive-through on I-35 strip retail because you can't afford it. It's $60 a square foot. So those smaller pieces of retail in a mixed-use environment are the type of spaces that small business owners can use because it's not the strip I-35, which is what would come. You want to guarantee no small businesses, deny this zoning and keep it all retail. That it can only be auto zones and 7-Elevens and those kind of things from there. It's the only people who can pay the kind of dollar per square foot that's required for standalone retail.
Correct. Correct.
And then just something else to think about. I'd like to add on to what Councilmember Heiser was saying. The folks, thank you for staying. A lot of folks who make the arguments against don't stay, they don't want to hear back from us. They want to tell us, but they don't want to hear back. But consider how many feet of pavement that someone has to drive through off of I-35 to get to this site. What is it, 100 feet? Maybe 500 feet of pavement to get to it. That's the amount of infrastructure that we have to pay for, and it's a state road. It's not even our road. They go to TxDOT and say, okay, TxDOT, this is your highway. What do we need to do to accommodate for ourselves? TxDOT says, put in the decel lanes and the turn lanes and do this to minimize your impact on our infrastructure. So how much does it cost the city to approve and allow for this dense development? Almost nothing. How many feet of water line, how many feet of wastewater line do we have to put in? Very, very little. And so what's causing all the traffic on 150? What's causing all the problems? It's the endless sprawl, everything to the east. It's everyone who lives all the way out to Lockhart and Caldwell County that are jamming up 150, and the one little piece that's extremely valuable, if you put mixed use, we're gonna say no. They're the ones that actually pay the taxes. The majority of the people adding to the traffic aren't even taxpayers. They live outside the city in all this growing sprawl that we have no control over. So if we say because of that traffic problem that's coming on 150, that we're going to deny 50,000 square feet of high-end mixed-use retail, we're actually lowering the quality of life for everyone who lives there because that traffic problem will not go away. But right now, everyone who lives down 150, how far do you have to drive to get to any good restaurant or retail?
You hear it from me all the time, Mayor.
You go all the way down 150, then you go all the way up to exit 215 before you get to the Wendy's. That's the closest thing. If you want to get to a real restaurant, you got to go even farther. Downtown has no restaurants because of the 150 state highway traffic problem that we have that puts that area into gridlock. So if we do not allow for good quality retail to be established in a mixed-use area downtown, we are not increasing the quality of life of the people who live there. We're decreasing it by denying ready-to-go, high-quality retail. At least that would be the argument that I would make. And from a water standpoint, the argument the gentleman made is exactly accurate. 95% of the water use in Georgetown is irrigation of single-family lawns. So the argument was made, well, let's say average is 175,000 gallons or whatever. Well, you're in an apartment, so you don't water and you don't do this, so let's bring it down to 150. That's not accurate. Single one-bedroom and two-bedroom apartments are folks who are in their 20s. Maybe it's a brand-new family. They are not using a heavy amount of water. They do not have yards. They do not have long stretches of highway that they travel. They shop right there and help activate the retail, and I could go on and on. Every land use planner, every development conference that you go to, every comprehensive plan that you will put forward will say that high density retail at your urban cores and your super regional nodes is exactly the type of development pattern that you need if you want to be a prosperous city long term. And so if you listen to the arguments that say, well, it's an apartment, therefore it's going to bring criminals and they're going to be a drain on our resources, it's ironic because the true drain on the resources is the sprawl and everything to the east. So I would say, personally, no to the single-family folks who live far out. Please stop building your massive sprawling subdivisions, and yes to the infill mixed-use developments that bring far more in tax revenue than they cost in expenses, and that use far less city resources and valuable natural resources per capita than the single family. And now I'm done. Thank you. Does anybody want to add to that?
Just one thing with the document that the city's put out where it lists our power water users, and you see a bunch in the top 10 are apartment complexes. And that's why apartments are bad for water use. I mean, I bet if you took the totality of every home in Plum Creek and you added up all of the water used, it would just be single family development 1 through 10 throughout the city, but that's not how it works. So just in the future, if you look at that list, single-family residential developments are not part of it.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, so I heard some conversation about doing away with the flats and townhomes and keeping that retail. Is that what the will of council is looking at, doing that? Because I'm amenable to that as long as we get into retail there. I'm good with that. Actually, it takes away a lot of the density because you got less people living there. It's more retail.
That's
But
what
I
I
want
would
to make sure
support.
that's what council's amenable to.
I'm good either way, personally.
Yeah, well, yeah, I haven't had a chance. Well, that's fine, that's fine.
Go ahead.
But that's what the whole thing was. We were really pushing for the retail, okay, for the businesses there. Because you have the whole concept of bringing that to that area of town. Zuniga's brought it many times. I understand Mr. Heiser's point about the small businesses being able to have those available. And also a selling point, what you're saying, Mr. Mayor, about when you have that density, because I wrote down on my notes, we've talked about water, phase 1, phase 2, parking garage environment, retail, density, traffic flow. It could be a selling point as well, because you have those retails there and you bring in the apartments. Even though I was kind of on the fence about, additional apartments and so forth, but we are going through a high housing crisis in most of this area, okay, even in San Marcos, even with the universities. So I understand where everybody's coming from on that end. When I first voted no, it wasn't because of I didn't want retail there. It's because I needed clarification about everything we spoke about the first hour about the density of the water, density of the phase 1 and 2, the parking garage and so forth, and the drainage, the environment and so forth. Those were the big concerns because there's stories I've been hearing from across the state when you have developers come in. A lot of the water runoff from the construction ends up in ponds, ends up in backyards. And I know where the area we're talking about, floods and so forth. So I'm a little bit more eased now to see that we're going to be working through that issue. So one subject I would just like to touch on, since we've talked about all these other things, is the traffic flow that's been brought up. Is there something that we can address from the city standpoint of if this goes through the long term, what are we looking at as far as a contingency plan to ease some of that traffic concerns that the residents have been bringing up? Like we've hit all the other marks, but the traffic is one of the ones that I'd like to be able to discuss.
Yes, sir. We have more slides to go through, and we'll show you the traffic impact and some of the improvements that we make as part of. Jason's doing a great job on this presentation, but we've got a few more slides to go through, and we'll be happy to show you the TIA and the improvements that are being planned.
All right, Jason. That sounded like a segue.
Mayor, you're doing such a good job. I was going to turn it over to you. So let's see, where were we? 33, we touched on water and electric. And I'm coming to 35, but we'll go finish this. So one of the concerns we've been discussing, TIA, traffic, obviously a big concern, any municipality in the state of Texas. So City and TxDOT did review the TIA that they were proposed. Again, TxDOT has certain criteria depending on land use, square footage. They have an access management manual that kind of dictates if you do A, then you're required to do B, X versus Y. So some of the improvements they're looking at doing, and again, I'm gonna focus, phase 1 has to be done as part of the first phase. New traffic signal, that's gonna be mid-block on 150. Obviously with that comes retiming of additional lights. Turn lanes, deceleration lanes along 150 and IH-35. So if you're heading southbound, you're not gonna slow up that traffic. There'll be a decel lane that you can turn into, get off on the side. Shared driveways throughout the development. Again, sidewalks and pedestrian improvements, ensuring connectivity. Again, more people walking means less people driving. And then, again, planned improvements that mitigate those traffic impacts. So there's a lot going on those. I'll kind of scroll through some of the images. So this is proposed right-in, right-out driveway on Mikey Court. That's currently how it functions now. I mean, we have that center turn lane median, so that they're just define that a little bit more.
Can you go back to that one, Jason? Sorry. I mean,
no, that's okay. I'm
we're
sorry.
gonna be right
I
there.
heard you say 35. I should have said.
Okay. So right there, that intersection that ties up to 150 from Mikey Court and what is called Go Forth, that is connecting with Filomena. That right there is one of my biggest concerns. And I know you guys did a traffic impact analysis, and there are a lot of improvements being done to the other area, but this right here is an intersection I drive every day. I understand that things have gotten approved and that the traffic that is coming from 150 is from other subdivisions, but that where Mikey Court is and where you have, I don't know if that is supposed to be a yield sign or something, that triangle.
I think that's the showing we call those pork chops, just dictates right in, right out movement turn. So that's what that's
Okay, so you're gonna have people coming out of the complex by Mikey Court, right? And how are they going to turn to tie to 150? And are they going to know that they're gonna have to turn right?
Yes, so it will be signalized. Common sense would say they can't drive over the curb unless they're in a
Because I do that.
truck.
I
But-
don't have common sense when I come to City Hall. That's what I have to drive that every day when I get out of work.
There's multiple, that's not going to be the only exit for the multifamily. They're going to have some access into the phase two. So if I can show you on the next image. So this, it's hard to see on the right side of the screen, east side, there's a northern entrance above the signalized intersection. So that's another access point for that multifamily. So they're not going to be all coming out of one area. They're going to split that traffic among those two ways. So
Can you go back, please?
yes, ma'am.
All right, so what I would like to see, it's a redesign of that intersection that goes with Mikey Court, connects with Go Forth, and goes to 150. Because that cannot be the most effective way to connect with 150. I can already see the cluster that's gonna happen in there because it happens already, and the Filomena apartments haven't even been occupied. So I don't even wanna imagine what that intersection will look like. And although I'm kind of tying another development to what you're going to be bringing up, I am one of those users, and I'm not gonna be the only one, and it will be really congested. That, right where you have that triangle in there, that my ask would be for that to be redesigned.
We can look at that, definitely make a note. I think the issue that I want to bring forward to council is that while it looks like a street and operates like a street, that's actually not a city street. That is a private drive that serves multiple businesses there. So we're having discussions with Public Works on what we can do on that intersection. What are some of our options? We've got some other developments going on along in the back. We've got people looking at subdividing that property. From a transportation standpoint, though, we'll have to have some more conversations with TxDOT because it's technically not a street. I'm not sure what those
That little
what those
space that you have
changes
right
would
there?
be. Yes, it is considered a private drive. It's unnamed. It doesn't even have a street name. So
That is
I
like my
think that's
biggest concern.
I think that's a bigger issue outside of the development itself. I mean, like I said, we've been having those conversations probably prior to my involvement with this two-step project. So. I wish I had an answer for you, but unfortunately right now I do not.
Is it possible for the city to take over the private drive, maintenance, repairs on it, so that it gets transferred over to the city? Since
That's
it's
gonna be more for us to put
but
on
it's
our
a
plate.
small, but it's just a small segment.
What if we have to design a roundabout or whatever goes in there to make the traffic flow? Then we're gonna have to end up paying for that.
Well, we're gonna pay for it if you want it. So
If
that's
we
one of the
want it.
biggest things, because that's got nothing to do with the development. That's actually bringing traffic from Filomena and everything else. So that's actually, if we take over it, then it's definitely what you're leaning towards, is that you're upset that you go through a private drive and it backs up. So really, unless you're visiting those private, what do you call it, stores or whatever these are, you really shouldn't be going down that road. So you're actually doing something you shouldn't be doing. But
Along with the rest of
yeah,
them.
with the rest of Kyle, yeah, that's the biggest thing.
I've gone through that
Yeah,
little section.
and I go through it too as well, so I'm doing the same thing, but what I'm saying is if we're gonna.
I haven't jumped the
if-
curb,
if-
but I just cut in front of people.
But if you wanna, but if you want to alleviate the traffic there, really think about the entire corner there where you're talking about where you're coming out. just before I-35, the side road there. So as a city, we need to address that, because that's kind of
No,
our
I
thing.
agree. I agree with you. What I would like to see is, since you will be tying up to that, and I know that you say it's not going to be the only entrance to the complex, it's still, people will be using it, and it will add up to the traffic. So what could you do in that intersection? What can be done? Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to turn that over to them. I'm not a traffic engineer.
Again, I think, I mean, all we can do is try to influence TxDOT to make these improvements, whether it's a roundabout in that area. It hasn't been a big topic, because I do know that some of the developers or landowners to the north of that arrow or that triangle have all been working with the city over the last year or two to try to improve that street.
We're aware.
Yeah, I figured you were. So I'll be glad to have those discussions with TxDOT and see if there's any influence we can put on them to help mitigate this traffic issue, but I don't know the answer. You know, we hired our TIA specialists, and we hired, and we had city and TxDOT meetings, so we came up with the best plan possible for our development, but I'll be glad to share it. I mean, in my opinion, I think, you know, you need to cut that whole curb out and put something there, or a roundabout. But you know, and I'd be willing to dedicate some of my land for it if necessary, but we haven't approached the city with that, or TxDOT really, because it's TxDOT road that really is going to impact that. But I'll be glad to run down that whole rabbit hole to try to figure it out.
With the traffic, I mean, it just still makes me nervous, because we just had our biggest culprit just go by, the train. Okay, when that train breaks down and when that train goes through, 150 just backs up all the way to past Sonic, all the way up the hill. And then now seeing that, you know, we're going to be putting a traffic light right there. You know, it's just, unfortunately, you know, that's just the way our town is. You know, we have so many puzzle pieces with our city, and some areas are just, you know, 4 acres of this and 20 acres of that. It's just the area and just the way it was designed, and we're just trying to find our best solutions. That's what we're doing up here. That's why we're brainstorming. We're not knocking the roads, we're not knocking the retail, we're not knocking the apartments. We're just, and the environment and cutting trees down. We're just trying to look at the bigger picture, because this section of Kyle, this little area, it's so small, but it just has so many difficult components that we've got to figure out to make sure it's safe to drive. We have a restaurant that's up there that gets clogged up with traffic. We have the sidewalks and also the apartments, the water drainage. So it's just a lot of them on our plate, but I'm glad we as council is sitting down and really dissecting every little piece on this end.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Tobias, I think you made a great point. You know, oftentimes we need to remember that we need to see the forest from the trees. We're talking about our traffic issues here at 150 in this development. We want to make sure that this development is mitigating theirs. But we also have transportation master plans, working with the county. You know, all those have to be done in together, and so that it's not just this development that's trying to solve the 150 traffic. We have road bond projects, we have other subdivisions, interconnectivity. So again, we are looking at all of those things. I think we'll definitely work with their engineers, get with our traffic engineers to see what we can do on that intersection, to your point.
Is that
Councilmember
something that could come back when we are talking about development agreements?
For this one, I think possibly either that or as Mayor Mitchell said, we could talk about putting some flexible language in there to provide some options. I'm just not sure. Again, I'd have to get with TxDOT, their engineer, and our city engineer and transportation planner. A little outside of my wheelhouse on that, so.
I think trying to get TxDOT to approve it in 2 weeks would be very difficult. I think the best course of action would be to have some type of language which would allow us to address it in some way. I just don't know what that solution is. We would have to look at that and work with TxDOT to see what's possible and what the impact would be on the entire roadway.
I really hope that everybody, I'm not trying to be a pain in the neck, but I do drive that intersection every day of my life, even to come to City Hall. homes, and I know how ugly it gets in there. All I know is that we are gonna add traffic from this development and the one that is in front of Illumina that are all gonna be trying to cut through that road. And we will hear about it. So I'm trying to see what we
Why
can
would they
be
cut through
proactive.
that road? I don't
They
understand.
take from Philomena and then they go behind.
But they can only turn right, so why wouldn't they go in front? You can't turn left from the back side of that. So if you're trying to use the backside as a cut through to turn left to go out on 150, you can't do that.
They are doing it.
So what's she saying?
Or can you?
The big curb?
Jumping the curb?
No,
But we
no,
can't.
no. Go, so take a look at the picture, and I have a different map. I have that map. When you get out of Philomena, you're gonna take that
Left turn.
left, exactly.
And then you go
Imagine being from Idea, coming to City Hall, and then you cut right.
You've been driving a deal now for 1 year?
Yes, sir.
Not every day of your life, like you just stated?
Well, a year.
Yeah, okay, so
A
1 year.
Okay,
just wondering.
enough
Oh, okay,
time
okay,
to
sounds
struggle
good.
with it.
Well, you know, one of the things you
We
gotta
love
look
to
at.
compare
So-
who's
no,
got
just-
the most.
Just real quick, I just want to say something is that, but as a city, think about long-term what this council will be working on. We're looking at solutions for relief for 150. We're looking at solutions for our downtown. Our master plan is pretty much in play. We're going to give some relief, hopefully, to 150 like never before, but it's us following the master plan that we have, right? So there is hopefully options coming really soon. And that's something we've got to be cognizant about as a council, that we've put some things in play that can probably address all the issues that you're having. But it's going to be, you know, some of the things we did is the go forth, right? We have started building some of the go forth out. That's going to help alleviate, once we finally build out the go forth, that's going to alleviate a lot of the traffic that we've already started on. I mean, because some of that's already built, you know, through development agreements. The developers are already working on that part of it. We've got things on the horizon that can really alleviate a lot of traffic off of 150. But there's still.
I'm just
and
talking
there-
about that
And that little section,
specific
there's some
section.
things that council can do too. I mean, last year, council said no to the improvement of that road. So if it's council's will to go
From
back
that-
and address that, we can do that as a council, go back and address that and work with the landowners in that area.
Okay, but that's what I would like to see, if there is
Okay.
anything in the language that we can add
Well, that-
to address the traffic in
So
that
that's a different
particular
landowner
intersection.
that has the land nearby there. So it's gonna be a different landowner from
But when
this
we are
landowner.
doing this rezoning, we are already approving that there will be a development there that will use that Mikey Court in order to get to 150.
Yeah, but you're asking him to develop a place that he
Because
doesn't
this is
own.
what they're asking for, this rezoning. Again, I am excited about the development. I know that you're frustrated, I'm frustrated too. I would like to see that we are gonna have some sort of solution for that little piece of land.
All right, we've,
I'm good.
this is very, very robust discussion. I'll entertain motions now. Let's move on. It's good. Motions?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve, Jason, you done?
Sure.
We're done. That's an hour and a half, and we're gonna get to see the whole thing in detail. Yes, it is. All right, I'll second. Motion to approve is made by Councilmember Zuniga, seconded by the mayor. The motion is on agenda item number 9. Is there discussion on the motion?
Yeah, this will be first reading, coming back for a second.
That's right. All right, roll call vote.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Tobias,
Aye.
Zuniga,
Yes.
Parsley, Heiser.
Yes.
Rizzo.
All right, motion carries 7-0, and for the record, I'll object to it being finally passed. All right.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council.
Thank you, Jason.
We'll see you again, Todd, down the road.
Thank you,
Hey,
everybody.
thank y'all, by the
Appreciate
way,
it.
for trying to
We're gonna get
work
there.
with us.
We'll get there.
All right.
For being patient.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We need another one.
So we can take up the last two. I don't know.
Yeah. It's an important discussion. It's very good discussion. I'd rather spend our time talking about this than some of the other things we talk about, so. It was good. All right. Next up is agenda item number 10, consider approval of a resolution amending the approved moderators for the Juneteenth Dialogue for Peace and Progress events. Councilman Zuniga, what you got for us?
Hey, guys. Mayor and council, I think when we set up the Juneteenth, we had myself as the moderator and our librarian as co-moderator. This resolution is to, I'm asking for permission from council to allow for Dr. Vanessa Westbrook to be a co-moderator on this Juneteenth Peace and Progress with me. And just to give some context, Vanessa and I have worked together on numerous city events, community events that have drawn large crowds, and we've had a good relationship professionally and academically. And so we worked together on the MLK program with the school district and for our city. It was a very nice event. People felt very welcomed. And I think that with her expertise and her experience and a lot of her historical knowledge, she would be a great co-moderator with me to serve on the Peace and Progress for Juneteenth.
All right, so the reason she wasn't brought up the last time is because the policy is written sort of narrowly, which I'm
Right.
not sure really is a very effective policy at this point. But the request would be to add Dr. Westbrook as a moderator.
Yes.
Could we allow for the three of you, you and the other moderator, to work out your roles? Or are you asking for us to remove an already approved moderator?
We could do it either way. I think that it flows more efficiently with just two, just because we only have an hour and we only really get 6 questions to the panelists. And so I think in this case, it would be probably more efficient just to have myself as moderator and Vanessa as co-moderator.
Have you spoken to the other person that we voted on at the last person about this?
Not
Not yet?
No, I was not able to, no.
Okay. I don't mind either way. I think Dr. Westbrook makes a great moderator. She was a part of the dialogues for founding, so she was a part of it from the very beginning. I personally think that's great. I think while we're here, so maybe that we don't have to go through this again, I can anticipate that for the Hispanic dialogues event coming forward, the policy also is so narrowly defined that, Councilmember Parsley, who I know has really devoted a lot of her time and energy to this, would probably want to be a moderator for that as well. So if we're going to add Dr. Westbrook here, we might as well go ahead and allow for Councilmember Parsley to be a moderator at that event. We've kind of we've said yes to a lot of these different exceptions. I don't think we've regretted one of those yet. So I'd like to do both of those at the same time, if we can, just to make it a little simpler. But my suggestion would be to leave the third person on there until you've had a chance to discuss the roles.
Yeah, we can do that.
So
Yeah,
that,
this is not about, anything like that.
Mayor Pro Tem.
No, just want to say that's a great suggestion. The more the merrier. So it's great.
So I'd like to make a motion to add Dr. Westbrook, to make an exception to the, you keep looking like you're going to tell me something. Please don't argue the rules on the moderator for this.
What's on the agenda right now is to approve adding Dr. Westbrook and the exception for this particular event. It doesn't have the Hispanic Heritage event on here right now. So we can either bring back the policy and make official changes at a future meeting, if that's what we want to do, change the policy altogether moving forward.
Well, we're talking about an event that we do.
It's
It's the
dialogue.
moderation, so it's
Right.
not like we're talking about two different things.
I think we're good on
They're
this
all
one.
tied up.
Okay.
It's all peace and
Like,
progress.
I make a
related.
motion to add Dr. Westbrook to the Dialogues for Peace and Progress as an added moderator, as well as to as an exception to the rule, and then also to add Councilmember Parsley for the Hispanic Heritage Dialogues and make an exception to that rule when that event comes forward.
Second.
All right, motion by the mayor, second by Mayor Pro Tem. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you.
All right, next up is agenda item number 11. Consider approval of a resolution authorizing the city manager to waive all building permitting fees for the property located on Honey Onyx Trail for Meritage Homes Corporation as part of Operation Homefront.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Sorry, Amber Schmeitz, Assistant City Manager for the record. We have a cool program for you. Meritage Homes has partnered with the nonprofit Operation Homefront to provide a mortgage-free home in the Waterstone Crossing. They asked the city to consider waiver of fees related to the construction of the house for Operation Homefront. Operation Homefront would serve a veteran, disabled veteran, in their family and provide them a home mortgage-free. I do have Justin Belmore here with Meritage to come up and speak about more details about the program. But tonight before you, you have a couple of options. You can approve the resolution authorizing the fee waiver for building and permitting fees. You can amend the resolution to limit the waiver to specific fees or add other fees, and then you can deny the resolution and require payment of all fees. Staff recommends approval of the resolution as presented. It would mean about $1,700 in fees, building and inspection fees.
And this is for one home, correct?
The one home, yes.
Yeah, not like somebody stated that they were doing a whole development and waiving fees for it, like in,
No.
we heard in citizens' comment. This is one home for one veteran, correct?
Correct. One home for one veteran and their family.
So it looks like this company here may have selected a veteran and is correct, willing.
Joseph Belmore, Meritage Homes, for the record. Good evening, council and mayor. So we're the builder partner for the nonprofit. The nonprofit is Operation Homefront, and they do the vetting and selecting of the veteran.
Okay.
This is the 11th year that we partnered with this nonprofit organization. We're building a home in Charlotte and one here in Kyle. The veteran family has not been selected. The nonprofit group is selecting those applications. The veterans typically have a story to tell. A lot of them have been wounded in combat, and part of the building of the home will be making it ADA compliant, lowering the light switches,
Yes.
raising the plugs, and all of those accommodations. And so we're here today to ask for the city's participation. We're doing a groundbreaking event on June 17th. And then on the fall, once we get closer to completion, that's when we'll have the big ceremony. The family will be awarded the home, and we'll have, you know, the members from the nonprofit there as well.
Well, from a son who's my father, who's a disabled veteran, I want to say thank you for
Thank you,
doing
sir.
something like
I'm a
that.
veteran of the Marine Corps
Yes,
for 7
thank
years.
you
This
for
is
your
near and dear
service
to my
too.
heart,
You know,
and why I'm here tonight.
We're talking about giving veterans homes. You know, you always hear those kind of scenarios where there are people out there that are homeless, that are veterans, but you're going through a process to be able to provide somebody who served our country with a home to be able to provide for them, for themselves and their family. I mean, that's very honorable, and I just want to say thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you so much for that.
I just want to add, so we've had, I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem, you go ahead. You've been here before us several times,
Mayor, not keeping count.
negotiating the Meritage Development Agreement, and which is now under construction. The discussion about 150 has been had tonight, and I want to just say that the Meritage project is one of those developments that I am not speaking of when I talk about predatory development, adding traffic. Your project in particular has been one of the most important projects to happen east on 150 in a long time, because it made the way for the Goforth extension, which we are very hopeful will be included as a fully funded project in the upcoming November 2024 county bond program. None of that would have happened. It would not have provided, so it's relief on traffic from 150 at Post Oak. You'll be able to turn south and go straight to Yerington. So all that 150, everyone who lives at Waterleaf, if you live at Meritage, right now the only plan without you working with us and taking unnecessary heat as if you were enriching yourselves for this road, which is, you didn't want to do it, we wanted it. The result of that road is going to be that the folks who live in Meritage don't have to go up to 150 to go south, which is the only way they could have done it. But now they'll be able to go straight south to Yerington and take thousands of vehicles off of that road. And so I'm really happy, obviously, for what's being proposed here. But you guys have truly been partners, and I just wanted to say that because I know you personally have taken a lot of flack over this project, but it's coming together if you just persevere long enough, right?
That's right, Mayor.
That's the comment I want to make, Mayor Pro Tem. Do you have a thought? Yeah.
No, I just want to say thank you for bringing this forward. It's great that we're doing something for our veterans. Myself, I've got a cousin that was participated in the Wonder Warrior program. You've probably seen some of the commercials that are national right now. He was burned in an explosion that happened, and it wasn't for, groups that go out and help these veterans. They definitely would never have a house that's compliant to their needs. I mean, it's really, really important that we're doing. These are people that have, sacrificed a lot for us, and now are living a different life because of them protecting us and being there for us. So for me, this is close to home, so thank you, and thank you for doing this for our veteran, especially a disabled veteran, because that's really important, because people don't understand the time and the commitment that our men and women in the military give to our country, and it's really important that when they're hurt or something happens while they're in combat or during maneuvers, we need to definitely do our best to take care of them. So I definitely want to get 100% behind this. It's great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Zuniga.
Yeah, I also wanted to follow up saying thank you for doing this. It's a great house mortgage-free with ADA compliance for our veterans, and for the things that the mayor said also about Waterstone, for your collaboration for the Go Forth extension as well. But thank you for this. It's definitely going to help a family out, and a very much needed family as well.
Yes, sir.
And thank you for your service too.
Thank you.
Motions?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item number 11 as written.
Second.
All right, motion by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Councilmember Parsley, that would approve agenda item number 11. Is there discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Justin. Appreciate you guys.
Right.
You need it? All right. All right, we're gonna reconvene at 9:30. We're gonna do it. I'm getting requests for a break, so thank you, Rosie. All right, calling this meeting back to order. Time is 9:33 p.m. I do not want to go through all four of these presentations. I think I'm going to get overruled, though, so. All right. All right, next up, agenda item number 12, receive a report, hold discussion, provide staff direction on the proposed compensation and benefits plan for fiscal year 24-25. Ms. Truelove.
Good evening, Rosie Truelove, Director of Administrative Services for the City of Kyle. We have here today an overview presentation where we're going to give you a brief rundown on what we can expect for the budget for fiscal year 25 with respect to some pay and benefits items. We're going to start with a brief snapshot to remind you what we discussed for fiscal year 24. We'll talk a little bit about compensation and a health plan summary for fiscal year 24. We do have 5 pretty substantial policy changes that we're going to be laying out for you that we hope to bring back at the June 18th council meeting, and a summary of activities for fiscal year 25. So for fiscal year 24, currently we have 363 FTEs. We have 357 that are enrolled in our healthcare, 214 employees, 67 dependents, 20 spouses, and 43 families. In fiscal year 24, if you look back at that council briefing or the proposed budget from the city manager for fiscal year 24, we talked about doing 4 important things that were related to HR. The first is implementing some equity-based salary adjustments. We discussed and directed staff to initiate a compensation study to look at where we're at as a city. We talked about initiating 457 deferred compensation administrator plan review, and we talked about evaluating the city's medical plan for self-funding. For the third and fourth item there, the deferred comp administrator plan review, we have issued an RFP and we have proposals that are in place, and we'll be hopefully bringing that back to you before the end of the summer. And then for the city's medical plan, we did have those conversations. We did do that evaluation because we are so new with the substantial changes that were made last year with our health plan. We don't have quite enough data to make a call for the next fiscal year. So we'll continue to monitor that throughout fiscal year 25 and potentially come back for changes to that in fiscal year 26. So to go over our compensation philosophy, I think it's important to have this at the forefront as we're talking about some of the changes that we're making and the recommendations you'll see in the budget. First of all, we want Kyle to be a premier employer of choice in the region. Through that, we're going to offer competitive pay. We're going to make sure that we are doing peer comparisons and job benchmarks. We have our 10 peer cities that we will always be comparing ourselves to. That includes Austin, Buda, Cedar Park, Georgetown, Leander, New Braunfels, Pflugerville, Round Rock, San Antonio, and San Marcos. With our compensation study that we're in the process of getting the final results in and implementing, we hope to have a new salary guide structure with pay grades of jobs, families, and job groups that will allow us to be really competitive in the job market. We also want to make sure that we're offering other compensation and incentives to assist in recruiting. Really, we want to be the employer of choice by offering great pay, great benefits, great culture, and great projects to work on. So things that you'll see when the city manager brings back his proposed budget for fiscal year 25, we're anticipating a 4.5% average merit increase, implementing the police increase year 3 in accordance with the meet and confer contract, evaluating health insurance costs, which will be presented with the proposed budget, exploring a potential increase from the city contribution side to TMRS. This will be a benefit that will help us pay down our overall liability sooner than what we currently have scheduled out. And then you will see some funding to implement adjustments that are recommended through our compensation study. We're still finalizing that. We'll talk a little bit more about that in future slides, but we have goals, and we know that we're going to have a few pockets of job families that we're going to have to address, and really particularly want to make sure that as we may need to include funding to adjust in beyond the police step 3 year increase to keep them in the top quartile for our market cities. So with the compensation study, again, our goal here is to help formulate our overall compensation strategy that will in turn allow us to recruit and retain top talent. We contracted with an industry expert, the Siegel Group, to benchmark against our 10 peer cities and make recommendations to include how we might need to move our salary grades and how we would create that salary structure in for our different titles. Overall, the good news is we're in solid shape. The 20% across the board in fiscal year 23 and the 6% that was authorized for fiscal year 24 really helped to remedy most of the pay issues that we were seeing within the city of Kyle. I would say about 95% of our pay ranges are in alignment with our peer city market data, which is good news for us. Some position pay ranges are going to require some additional adjustment, and so you will see in the proposed budget some funding for implementation of those recommended adjustments. We're still working with our consultant to get the final information out, and we should have that in time for the manager's proposed budget. So I also wanted to share, just as a reminder, where we're at with our health plan. These are the numbers for fiscal year 24. We have a good health plan for our city employees, and we've seen a lot of increase in the utilization of that for dependents. And so that's one of the things that it's a great benefit that we're offering our employees. We are in conversations right now about what our plan will look like for fiscal year 25. There might be some potential for increases there, but we will work to try to keep those to as minimal level for employees as we can. To transition into some of the policies that we're looking at, before I start going through the details, I want to just let you guys know that we did, as we were getting ready for this, convene what we're calling the Benefits Committee, which is a group of cross-departmental employees stratified within the organization to help give us feedback on the policies that we're looking at, both for the ones that you're going to see today and to continue to keep active as we talk about potential changes that we'll be making in our HR policies moving into the future. So the first policy that we have is to implement a new paid parental leave policy. The goal of this policy will to allow for up to 12 weeks of paid parental leave for full-time employees with at least 12 months of service for the birth of a child or a placement of a child for fostering or adoption into the employee's home. This is going to create a flexible and family-friendly workforce. It's going to cultivate an atmosphere where we can allow our employees to thrive professionally without having to sacrifice those essential family obligations. This will keep us in line with our peer cities that already offer a paid parental leave policy, and will certainly improve our recruitment and retention efforts. We don't anticipate any additional funds in the budget when we go to implement this. We'll bring this back at the June 18th meeting. Really, all of these we'll be bringing back at the June 18th meeting with a goal of immediate implementation there. The next policy is to revise our education assistance program. It's kind of a classic tuition reimbursement program where we're providing reimbursement for full-time employees for college courses for an associate's degree, bachelor's degree, master's, PhD degree plans, or for courses related to obtaining a GED, perhaps English as a second language course, or a vocational education certification, provided it's related to their role here in the city of Kyle. Our goal is to improve our employee retention by showcasing that professional development is a priority to us, and it will allow us to help build our internal talent pipeline. We anticipate that we could see around $100,000 to $200,000 a year of demand for this program. We're going from a $500 a year benefit for employees to up to $4,000 a year benefit to employees for the course of the year for coursework. We're not quite sure what the demand's going to be, but we're hopeful that we'll see a number of employees participate in this, and we've seen received a lot of really good feedback as we've been talking to employees about this. So hopefully this will be well received by the workforce in general.
About that.
Sure.
Are you proposing for full reimbursement of a college degree?
No, it's up to $4,000 per employee per year. So you can apply for approval to participate in the program. There are requirements to participate. You have to maintain a certain grade in the class. So I think you have to get an A or a B in the class for full reimbursement. And then we do reimburse after completion of the coursework. So we're working on our internal procedures that will go along with this. But what we heard a lot from when the reimbursement level was at $500 a year, we heard a lot that that our employees weren't willing to go through the paperwork to get reimbursement because it hadn't kept up with the cost of higher education. And so we're looking to make sure that we're keeping pace on that front.
Does it have to be job-related skill set that they're trying to enhance?
I think generally speaking, I mean, we're going to have, I think, an appropriate view on that. So while I would love to take courses in, I don't know, maybe I'm hoping to go to Spain next year, and I would love to take Spanish courses. If I can't articulate that that's part of or there's benefit to the city, then there might be some question on that. But we've got a lot of expertise in how these program can be determined and how it can be utilized, and everybody will go into this knowing that they will have the ability they'll go into it knowing that before they register for the class or as they're registering for the class, if it's an approved class within the tuition reimbursement program.
Okay.
The way I've tried to approach these in the past is that you would have some job family that maybe even if you don't currently do that in your current job, that the city has a job like that you could potentially go into. So you might start in one role in the organization. As you get more training, more education, then you might be qualified to take another role in the city. So as long as it's related to some kind of occupation here in the city itself, then that would be eligible.
But maybe not jewelry design, right? Maybe not ballroom dancing.
Right, yeah, I mean, I could see it like if you're trying to learn engineering and you're taking a few engineering classes.
Yeah.
But that is where you're trying to get a promotion to move up.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So we're also looking now at implementing a new vacation and sick leave buyback program, and this is probably the biggest of the policy changes, or the most impactful of the policy changes that we're going to talk about. So here we're talking about providing an avenue for full-time employees to sell blocks of sick and vacation leave back to the city of Kyle, bless you, on a biannual basis. Bless you again, in November and March. Payment is based on current employee salary levels and is subject to established taxes and withholding requirements. So here our goal is to establish a program that allows employees the option to convert their unused sick and vacation leave into extra income while reducing the city's overall financial liability. And we'll talk about that in a second. So this will, there's a liability that we carry across the city. And when we have employees with large balances of unused sick and vacation, this is recorded in our financial statements. And this will allow us to maybe get our arms around that liability a little bit more. Budgetary implications, hard to gauge. It's based on employee usage, but we'll talk a little bit about what that could look like and how that affects our liability. At a worst case scenario with 100% usage, we'll get into those numbers here in a second. Again, council consideration will come at the June 18th meeting. So to talk a little bit about the financial benefits here to the city of Kyle for this leave buyback program. The city is financially responsible for the payout of accrued leave balances to eligible employees. The cost of this to the city of the payout of accrued leave compounds each fiscal year when it's not taken. With merit increase pay adjustments, promotional pay adjustments, market pay adjustments, payroll taxes, and retirement contributions to the city, or by the city to TMRS, we see this number compounding on an annual basis. Our buyback program will reduce our existing financial liability for compensated accrued leave balances, and it will mitigate our future liability for compensated leave balances. So if you look at the chart, and the numbers are a little smaller to read on this one, but you see an employee who makes $35 per hour in 2024, and over 10 years, you can see how the compounding impact of what their salary would look like over time. When you look at the estimated leave payout liability over our 10-year program, you see that right now, if you were looking at what we have recorded in our books or anticipated for fiscal year 25, that liability is at about $5.3 million for all employees. If we do not do anything associated with this buyback program, we anticipate that liability can grow to over $9 million in the next 10 years. If you look at same data, but shown a little bit differently, if you look at what that liability looks like over the same time period, starting at about $5.3 million in fiscal year 25, and then at the far right of the graph, up to $9.2 million in fiscal year 34. The blue bar shows what that liability could look like if we had 25% of our eligible workforce participating in this program. The green bar you'll see is a little bit lower, and that's with 50% of our employees participating. And the yellow bar is if we had 75% of eligible employees participating in this. So you'll see the liability has the potential to be reduced over time. And then this gives the benefit to employees to have a little bit more control over how they're going to manage their leave balances. Now, there are guardrails associated with this. We do the buyback 2 times a year. We do require employees to be in good standing. We do require that employees maintain minimum levels of sick and vacation so that should a need arises for that particular employee, they do still have some balance there. And it is sold back in blocks of 10-hour increments. So I'm going to pause.
So pausing there, have we gotten input back from the employees, what they think about this, or is this the first presentation for it?
No.
The other The other concern for me is, I know that I had a lot of friends that retired from different municipalities.
Yeah.
One of the things they liked about acquiring sick time and, their comp time was that getting closer to retirement, they're able to sell that back and retire earlier. So is that something that we're taking away off the table, or is that something that's still possible?
So first, it's a voluntary program. So let's just be clear. This
Okay.
vacation and sick leave buyback is 100% completely voluntary.
Okay, cool.
You can be someone who really likes to have those balances of sick leave for a rainy day, or you value your vacation time and you would rather have that to use to spend time away from work. So there's no mandate for anyone to participate in this. That being said, we've had a lot of conversations with employees. They kind of love this because you do have employees that, have, especially our tenured employees, that even though they have the ability for payout, and I believe it's at 480 hours upon leaving the city, they still have above and beyond that, and they see this as a potential opportunity to manage that a little bit more and receive a little bit of extra compensation, maybe at some critical time periods during the year.
Awesome. I like it. I think it's great. I like that it's voluntary. So, but really, I think it gives you an option. Look, you just never know when there's an emergency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to have that option there is great, because what if there's a medical emergency in your family? Now you can use this time and sell it back and be able to take care of that emergency. I think it's a great idea. So yeah, definitely. Thank you.
And this doesn't take away from our donated leave pool or our sick leave donation policies that are still in place. So we do still have that as a city. But again, it's been really well received by our employees that we've spoken to about this. I don't know, Brian, did you have anything else to add there?
No, I think we've had, it feels like a dozen meetings on this with
Yeah.
employees, and working with the benefits committee has been really good. It's about 20 to 30 employees. I can't recall
Yeah.
the exact number. Large group, cross-section that Rosie talked about. And the job for that committee is to give us feedback. They go back to the individual departments after those discussions, discuss with their colleagues, and bring that information back to us. And we've made good changes based on that feedback that we've had. I've been to roll call meetings for PD to talk about it. So we've tried to get out there and listen to employees really on this issue. It's generally been very positive. Again, it's a voluntary program. This is one of those few times where you feel like you have something that can actually help the city and help the employees at the same time. If it helps us manage that financial liability going forward, it's a good thing, and does give another opportunity for employees to manage their time differently. So we think it's positive. I think there's some unintended consequences of our policy currently. By you having all this time that builds up, it almost gives an incentive for employees to leave because they get paid for that time when they leave. And that's not really what it was designed to do, but it does have, you have an unintended consequence. People build up this time, say, hey, if I leave, I get all this money. Well, that could be a very valuable employee that has an expertise that we need, and they've left the workforce, and now we've got to try to bring them back in. So there's those kinds of things that happen. Also, you have people now that potentially don't value their sick leave time, and so they use it very easily. And so now with this kind of policy, to have a minimum number of hours you have to have in your sick leave bank to participate in a program like this, you're going to be very, very careful with how you use that time to make sure you have an opportunity to use it. So we think there's a lot of benefits to it from lots of different angles.
And just to finish up on mine, and I'll be done.
Please.
We took feedback from salary and hourly employees.
Yes, we absolutely did.
Okay,
And when I say it's a stratified committee, we have, folks from assistant director, manager, supervisor, down to frontline employee on this. We've actually, if anybody on the benefits committee happens to be up and watching because they know this is going on, they have been fantastic to work with. They really have been. It's been a great way to see employees get engaged around issues and take an active role in how we're leading policy change in the city. And so it's been a lot of fun to work with them. But it is for both exempt and non-exempt hourly and salaried employees.
Will anything be changing in regard to when employees start to earn paid time and sick time?
Not with this change. I will say we have a running list of things that we want to look at with respect to our personnel policies in the aggregate. And that, I think the levels at which people accrue and the points at which they change from accruing 4 hours of vacation time to 4.5 hours or whatever those steps are. Those are things that we will look at over the course of the next year as we look at kind of doing a rewrite update on our personnel policies.
If I could just put something on your radar to consider is, for employees, and I've spoken to a few over the past couple of years who started around the holidays and didn't have time to take off to be with their families because they were still in that grace period of when they were unable to earn or accrue time. So I think that's something, I would at least like to see considered.
That's always a challenge.
Or having special circumstances for those kinds of people, because if someone starts at the beginning of November and, wants to take off the day after Thanksgiving, I don't even know if that's a holiday or.
Day after Thanksgiving is a holiday.
Let's pretend it's not for
Let's
the
pretend
sake of
it's
this
not.
example, but, to give those people the same opportunity, to be with their families around those times.
And just to be a little cognizant that, a lot of times, the reason people come in and work for municipalities is because of the, benefits. So always be real careful about shaving anything onto the benefits because that's usually because we don't pay like the private sector does. So the benefits is something that really keeps us, keeps them employees here.
And
Yes,
this
sir.
is one that people will consider as a great benefit to
Yep.
employees.
This is a net add to us is how we see it. And again, it benefits the city too. But to your point, Councilmember Heiser, one of the areas we've gotten some feedback is how long it takes to begin to earn certain number of weeks of vacation. And that's something that Rosie and her team are going to be benchmarking to these other 10 cities that we look at to see where are those break points and do we need to come back with any changes. But that's a future policy that would come back, which could potentially address some of your concerns.
Yeah, I just, a couple years ago, the whole idea of unlimited paid time off became very popular in companies. And what we ended up learning is when the sample size was big enough is that's actually a deterrent for people taking off even the time that they would earn when they didn't have unlimited time, because then it becomes a competition to see who can take less because there's no actual set number of days where people are taking off. So I just, I like that we're being innovative, trying to limit liability, but I also would like us to poke every possible hole in this whatsoever.
Yep, agreed. Any other questions on this before I go to the next one? Okay. So one of the things that in talking about this vacations and sick leave buyback program that it kind of highlighted is what we feel like is a real inequity in how our exempt and non-exempt employees are able to accrue time. And specifically here, I'm talking about compensatory time or comp time. So right now, if you are an exempt employee and you work over 40 hours in a week, you're able to accrue at an hour-to-hour rate comp time, which goes into a bucket that you can use in lieu of using sick or vacation, which then allows those buckets to perhaps get more full than they would under normal circumstances. We have had a lot of internal conversations about this. We've looked at our peer cities on this, and this is one that we are proposing a change to, and that would be effectively to eliminate the accrual of compensatory time for exempt employees. This will help to create some equity between our exempt and our non-exempt employees. When we're recognizing that our exempt employees likely have a bucket of some sort, it's either full down here or maybe full up here, of comp time that they've accrued. So we're laying out a policy change that would say, effective with the pay period ending on July 6th, we're going to eliminate accrual of comp time for exempt employees, and then allow those exempt employees to either have a payout of that in July, or a payout of that they can hold it and use it over the summer to go wherever people go, and receive a payout of that towards the end of the fiscal year. Again, the goal here is to create a fair and equitable leave accrual policy for both exempt and non-exempt employees. When we were talking to our peer cities that we talked about earlier in the presentation, we could only find one that had, and that was Buda, that had any kind of comp time policy for exempt employees. So this is going to really empower employees to manage their leave responsibly correcting what we feel like are inequities with our current timekeeping model, and create, a little bit more balance in how we have our systems there. And it would be paid out with fiscal year 24 funding, so it wouldn't impact the fiscal year 25 budget.
So what we're saying is that salary employees don't get any comp time, so say
Correct.
they work a full week, and then we've got them the whole weekend for a special event.
Ooh, I'm going to talk about that next.
So that's what I'm kind of reading into this.
Next
that we're going to
policy.
tell them, you know what, you're going to work for free.
Nope. We have something to address that very issue that you bring up.
Okay.
So this is really to address the, as part of my job as a director is to stay here and to work until now it's 10 o'clock on a Tuesday for city council meetings, and it really shouldn't mean that I earn any extra money because that's part of my job. And that's really kind of the expectation when you look across other organizations and our peer cities about when you get to that level, you're afforded typically a little bit of a higher salary, more responsibility, but also more latitude in how you set your schedule and how you flex your time. Having this idea of accruing comp time really creates an additional benefit to those employees that our hourly or lower paid employees don't have. So again, trying to correct an inequity there.
Just a couple of comments about that, if I could. I think the first thing is it's not offered in other places, comp time. It's somewhat of a foreign concept. I know for me personally, and I think for any member of the team that's come in, it's always, what are we talking about? What is this? How does it work? It's very unusual to have that. And I think there are situations where we have employees that have to work late on a Wednesday night or a Friday night, or there's a line break and they've got to do certain things. Anytime in that payroll, we want to have the supervisors to have flexibility to say, hey, you worked late on Wednesday, take off early on Friday if you'd like to do that, to kind of work with that. And then there's some special situations of there's Textravaganza, there's pie in the sky, there's a big event.
Yeah.
We had a very good, robust discussion with the benefits committee about it. And something like that, we want a policy that gives me the ability to say, in those particular cases, the city manager can make an exception because it's a all hands on deck event, or it's a snowmageddon, or it's I hate to use that term, but there's another, there's some calamity in the city, and for 2 weeks, it's everybody working to do whatever is needed to be done. Those are kind of unusual circumstances that we have a policy she's going to talk about in a moment that would address that. But for most other things, just within that payroll cycle, that people have the ability to flex their time a little bit with their supervisor and find a situation that makes sense. It does happen. I think those unusual events are kind of the one-offs where I think we'd have the ability to manage a little differently. So hopefully that helps address the point.
So salary for me as a salary employee, we've got different levels of salary employee. So we've got a salary employee that makes maybe $70,000 to $100,000. I mean, that's not the same as a salary employee making $100,000 to $200,000 or $200,000 to $250,000. That's totally three different scales. So I'm worried about the $70,000 to $100,000 salaried employee. That's kind of what my concern is right there, because that's a different level field from, look, honestly, $100,000, $200,000 employee working a couple more hours is totally different than that one employee making $70,000 to $100,000. And that's where I struggle a little bit with it.
Well, I think and I hear you, sir, and I understand that. I think where we need to look at for all of our employees is making sure they have a reasonable work week. And if we've got folks that are being asked to do more than what we think is justified by that position, then we need to look at adding more people, changing processes, or doing something different. So I totally understand that. I think some of the issues that we've had with comp time is there's a lack of accountability. It's hard to track. It's hard to verify. We're not quite sure all the hours are always booked the right way. They're not booked consistently between all the different departments. And it's also not a best practice. And so that's the issues that we've been seeing. I totally understand where you're coming from. And I think us working with our employees to address those kinds of issues, if we see an employee that's making $65,000 a year, and they're working 75 hours a week, every week, week in and week out, that's a problem. And we can't do that to our people, and that's not the culture we want to create. So we want to address those issues if we see it. One-off kinds of things, you got to come into extra hours to take care of things because it's your job, that's part of it, but not a culture like that. So I do understand.
Thank you, Brian. That's my concern was there, so thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that I'm glad that this is sort of being revised. I can see how, well, there's only one other peer city that had this. So I could see where it does cause a lot of inconsistency. You're already high salaried, and then you're gaining an extra compensation on your time for hours that you have to be there anyway, because that is, the higher salary comes with that.
Yep.
So, and someone who doesn't earn that high salary isn't getting that extra comp time. So I'm glad that this was been revised to be fairer moving forward.
So the last policy that we have is what Brian was just talking about, which is this concept of.
Can I just add how
Yeah,
long?
of course.
How long was that occurring?
Long time forever?
Long time, I don't know. I mean, it's the policy's been around for a long time. My understanding, and I know we have a few folks that might be able to correct me if I'm wrong here, but it used to be a cap of 80 hours.
Sure.
And during the pandemic, it was revised up to 160, but the policy was never changed.
Yeah, the personnel policy was never changed.
Personnel policy was never updated, but I believe the council had approved something at that time. I believe it's been around, Councilmember Zuniga, for many years. I don't know exactly when it started, but it's been some time.
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't abused, but it's just not good practice.
It's not good practice. But we do recognize that there are occasions, like what we had a couple weekends ago with the Textravaganza, where we need all hands on deck, where it's an exceptional event for the city of Kyle, for the workforce. And what we have done is created a new exception vacation policy where, with the city manager's discretion and his direction, we can allow our exempt employees to accrue hour-to-hour comp time within a certain time frame, within certain parameters. So it's not, I've decided to come in on the weekend and check my emails, and I'm going to bill the city for some additional comp time on that. It's a community event like Kyle Fair, or an emergency. So again, we'll look at this right now. We have it, this particular leave bank, it will act just like regular vacation. And they'll be able to sell it back just like regular vacation. But we do have a cap on this right now in the policy of 40 hours. If we see that 40-hour cap is not sufficient based on events and what we're seeing people accrue at events, then we can always adjust that in the future. But the idea is to create that ability to facilitate a little bit more flexibility, right, across maybe a couple of pay periods, and still keep to the feeling of equity that we're trying to display. Now, this again is exempt employees. Our non-exempt employees are still eligible to earn overtime. We have actually heard from a number of people they would prefer to earn comp time as opposed to overtime. So in that list of things that we're looking at in the personnel policies, that's one of the lines, is to how we can allow our non-exempt employees to earn comp time instead of just get paid overtime. So fiscal year 25 highlights. Going forward, as I said at the top of the presentation, we anticipate an average 4.5% merit increase. Police step 3, evaluating our health insurance costs and TMRS contributions. We're also going to be looking at those revisions to the personnel policies overall, tagging in there the employee evaluation system. What we have has been in place for a long time, and so we're going to be looking at what would be a best practice update to that. We will start meet and confer negotiations with the police in January of 2025. We'll also spend the fiscal year continuing to evaluate our insurance plan for the feasibility of self-funding, and then implementation of things that are already underway, right? So hopefully we'll have by the time the budget is adopted or we get into fiscal year 25, we'll have the employee compensation study implemented or be in the process of implementing that. You'll have that deferred compensation plan review with award this summer, and then implementing our new policies. We plan to bring these back on June 18th for a more formal adoption, with the goal of having them have an immediate implementation date, so that we can work towards communicating those and getting the entire workforce aware of the changes that are happening. And that's it.
Thank you, Rosie.
we made that as quick as possible.
I did. I talked pretty fast.
Yeah, no, you did a
It
good
was
job.
council slowing you down, sorry.
Well, I think, so I personally think that that we could probably wait on Melissa's placemaking item. It doesn't seem,
Jesse next, right?
Jesse next?
Well,
No, I think Jesse's for sure can be postponed, the committee's
for
item.
placemaking, Mayor, we do have an outside consultant here for that, so we could
Let's
bring
do
him
it.
up.
Really?
Yeah.
Since 7?
We,
I did not know that. All right, let's move to placemaking. The facilities plan, we can wait on that just a little bit as well. So I know you got a
Bring it
lot
back.
coming forward, but there's time. So let's move to my proposed final item, which would be agenda item number 15, receive a report, hold discussion, provide staff direction on placemaking, roundabouts, wayfinding, and beautification of gateways.
This is going to be a great ending item for our council meeting tonight. I'm really excited to bring Marissa from Coleman and Associates. We have been talking about all of our road bond projects. We have 13 new roundabouts planned just in our road bond projects, and we have another 3 on Kohler's Road. And we've talked a lot about updating and enhancing some of our gateways and placemaking features. So here's a presentation that Marissa helped put together. We're hoping to look at having a holistic kind of gateway program to address our 16 new roundabouts that we're doing for placemaking, and then also really enhancing some of our right-of-ways and gateways, FM 150 for one, Kohler's Crossing, doing some other additional updates. So with that, Marissa, I'll turn it over to you to go through the program.
We're rearranging up here. We're almost there.
right.
Perfect. Thank you, Melissa. So yes, I'm Marissa McKinney. I am the managing partner at Coleman and Associates. You may be familiar with some of our work at the award-winning Mary Kyle Hartson Park, and we're so happy to be back here in Kyle. So I have been talking with Melissa about the roundabout improvement projects that you guys are doing. These are the locations of the currently approved roundabouts that are going there in engineering. And I also included a link to the fact that in digging really deep into roundabouts throughout the US and all over the world, that there was a lovely article written about how roundabouts lower emissions. So congratulations to the city of Kyle about doing our part for the environment. So today we're going to focus on options and combinations for the roundabouts, using planting strategies and xeriscaping, using art and environmental graphics, signage and branding, and then taking your current signage families and looking at how we may evolve those in the future. And when I talked to the engineer about these, he was trying to describe like what we were trying to do with the roundabout beautification. And I finally said, so we're trying to take 13 roundabouts and make each of them look unique. They'll each have unique entries, exits, sizing, but we want to make sure that you know that you're in Kyle when you look at all 13 of these roundabouts, and you know where you are in Kyle based on the roundabout that you are driving through. And so the goal is to create a unified look throughout all of them while making sure that each of them still remains unique. So there's lots of ways to do this. A lot of this is pictures tonight. I don't have a lot of words, so we get to end with that. Planting strategies and xeriscape is one of the ways that you can go about these. So the next series of pictures is going to show how we use gravel, planting, turf, wildflower areas to make sure that each of these is unique.
That top left picture I love because it reminds me of when I'm in Wyoming. I definitely see that landscape right there.
Yeah, and I pulled, again, from roundabouts really all over the world. So some of these you'll see palm trees in, maybe that's not the direction we go, but it'll actually allows for us to kind of explore all of the ideas while we narrow in on what we may want to do in the future. So there's our palm tree example again, but using different materials, different natural materials to make each of these unique. And so by focusing on planting strategies in xeriscape, we use a strong planting design to create structure and identity at the roundabouts. The one in the top left may or may not be at the University of Texas, which you would know because it has the sort of burnt orange planting associated with it. The use of local stone to create vertical change. So the one on the top right, you can see it's kind of mounded up there a little bit. So we do have the third plane to play with here. The importance of seasonal color and interest. The bottom left corner has those red buds in there that really pop. And the use of gravel to reduce irrigation and maintenance that the city may have to perform in some of these areas. So the next item is a focus on art and environmental graphics. So again, each of these is unique and focuses on public art installation or some sort of graphic that anchors each of these roundabouts in a very unique ways. It doesn't always, it can be land art. The lower left image is sort of just this mounding with the walls that happens. Same with like the second one over to the right. But some of them, as you can see, are very elaborate art pieces that were commissioned that are part of this. And so these, you can connect with local artists. You can highlight what's special in Kyle with each of these roundabouts, inject color and personality. And actually, Bend, Oregon has an entire website and program dedicated to art and environmental graphics within their roundabouts. So a lot of these examples are pulled from the Bend, Oregon program, which is what they chose to focus on. And an example of this that I thought of was our work on the Texas Capitol Mall. We worked with two different environmental graphics gentlemen to take the flora and fauna of Texas and interject that onto the mall. And these have been extremely popular. The one that's missing is a bluebonnet, but these have been extremely popular with engaging the public, especially the young public, in getting them out to the Capitol Mall and creating an identity. You know where you are on the mall based on which flora and fauna you're closest to.
That armadillo is creepy.
He's great.
I do too.
I actually have a really horrible quality photo because it was a rainy day of the sculptor Lars Stanley explaining the armadillo, and there was a little, probably 2-year-old kid on the tour who walked up and held its hand. And so it's a great identity feature for the mall complex. So the last one to go over is signage and branding that can be incorporated into these. Y'all are very familiar with this. You'll see on some of the following slides the Kyle sign that is in the Marketplace and Burleson roundabout. And some of these, like the South Bend example, very large, very elaborate. But some of them, like the Tahoe City example, can be simple but very of the place. That's a roundabout that I'm very familiar with. That's the part of the country I grew up in. And when you drive around Lake Tahoe, that's the sort of signage that you see. So you know where you are in each of these areas. It doesn't have to be vertical signage. The example in sort of the top center there is the star. We see that in a lot of places throughout Texas as well. And then in the lower right, an example of a very simple raised graphic that indicates where you are in place and time. And then the lower left, obviously, is the Marketplace and Burleson roundabout.
That's the roundabout before we implemented the landscaping.
Correct.
Actually, we initially put landscaping in there, and then it all died. And so now we've put new landscaping in there.
Melissa and I discussed that, and I drove by it tonight on my way from the office. So the other piece of this is creating these sort of gateways throughout the community. I've talked with Melissa about various areas of town where as you exit off of I-35, how do you know that you've entered Kyle? And so some of that I think is looking at your sign family and how do we evolve that and how do we create different types of signs for different applications. So we've got the Kyle sign at Marketplace in Burleson. We've got the other, the lower right sign that's off of I-35. And so the top examples are, really contemporary signage at the new Veterans Park. That has very contemporary signage. The example on the left is really more sort of what we would consider traditional signage. So how do we take the Kyle brand and the Kyle logo and continue to evolve that into a series of signs of signs that we could put in and around the roundabouts, but also in other key gateway locations throughout the city of Kyle. And this continues on that theme. I know we've worked this was many years ago, but looking at the I-35 and Center Street location, about how there may be able to incorporate a large-scale Kyle sign, which I don't think ever materialized, but that's the graphic in the lower left, and how people could actually come and interact
I would
with
love
that
to bring
sign.
that project back together. I know y'all are involved. It languished for reasons not connected to you guys, but it would be neat, because do y'all know where that is on the bottom left, where that's proposed? It's right there next to Casa Maria, is that empty lot. There was a proposal at one point to help fund a major monument entrance sign that we actually greenlit, and then for a variety of reasons, it stalled out. But that's possible for us to pursue again if we wanted to.
Yeah, and how we take again, that was very much of the language of the Kyle logo.
It was
and how
great.
we-
You could sit on it and
Yeah.
take pictures, the whole thing.
Yep.
It'd be
Yeah.
a great entrance for the city.
Yeah. And the other examples we showed there are just, again, how these sign families iterate over time and at different scales. And then the lower right example we pulled from one of our projects that evolved over a very long period of time, the Avery Ranch development, and how this front entry sign was kind of the first piece that we designed, and then the other signs that happened throughout the community were developed over time. But the sign family, even though each of the signs is different, the sign family reads very unified. And then,
Yeah, we already have, well, essentially, maybe showing kind of the updated landscaping that we did have, but Marissa had a good idea of maybe we should color the Kyle to kind of match the stars on our butter blocks that we have there, that it could help kind of pop and bring those two ideas together. Kind of current, so that could be a really quick
update.
Quick kind of update for that. So, honestly, we're hoping to get some feedback from you guys on this. I think we're hoping to continue and really work on a contract to work with Coleman and Associates. We originally kind of linked up with them through the road bond project through K-Freeze, but understanding that we're looking at some other gateway features on this. So kind of continuing that and putting some of these wayfinding and placemaking elements into that and a whole package together for that.
Well, so the reason that the roundabout at Burleson all fell apart and the great landscaping that was put in there initially fell apart is because they didn't have the proper irrigation and drainage installed. So are we being sure that in the scope of the development of these roundabouts that we're setting them up for great landscaping and art? Is there someone responsible for making
Yes.
sure that we
So
don't do what we did in 2013, which is put landscaping in and then not be able to water it?
Yep. So I will say all of the roundabouts, and we'll work with that. So I think some of the project costs would potentially be to really design, specific landscaping for each roundabout when we get to that point. But all the roundabouts in general, although being designed by engineers, are being looked at for having irrigation and electricity into all of those.
So
roundabouts.
that's our policy
Yes.
in the project scope development.
Right. So as Melissa said, they'll have the basic infrastructure to the roundabout area, and then our plan is to work with Coleman and Associates to develop, plans for each one that ties in all these various elements in a very artistic way that I'm looking forward to kind of going through a professional process to do that. But it would have all the drainage that once it's in, it's going to look nice at the beginning when it's installed, and then many years into the future as well. We want to have it longevity for every site.
Councilor Harris.
One of the things that I'm really an advocate for is our dark skies. And I'd like to emphasize that all lighting should be downlit. It should not be front lit or uplit, or backlit would be fine. So downlit, backlit, nothing else really is acceptable under the new guidelines for dark skies. Plus the fact anything other than downlit or backlit affects your eyes when you're going through that intersection and around that roundabout. And for older people like me, our irises don't adjust quickly. So you see that brighter light, but you're going around this roundabout and getting into shadow, and it's a problem. So I would like to emphasize that we need to make sure we're using the newest guidelines.
Well, I just, from experience, the way, and I think Mayor Pro Tem can speak to this also, as well as Councilor Tobias, the work we did with Coleman to develop the Miracle Hartson project was more than just, hey, draw us some pictures. It was a very immersive and collaborative process, and Coleman helped us to solve a myriad of problems that, had we not worked with them, we would have developed later in their mistakes. And so I could not endorse Coleman more to help us with this project. I just want to make sure that your time is valuably spent and that this is something we want to fund and pursue, not only from the design standpoint, but from an actual CIP and engineering standpoint. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, just being very cognizant of cost as well. So where there's areas that we don't have the utilities nearby, you're designing that in a different mindset, that maybe, zero landscaping where we can, minimal, no water needed, right? Stuff like that. But if we've got the water source nearby, it's not going to be a big cost. I don't want to have to run a whole water line, to a roundabout that has no infrastructure around it. So just making sure we're cognizant of what we have underground.
Councilor Parson. Oh, Councilor Tobias.
I think we know which
Okay.
ones we're
Thank you.
talking about.
So I guess when you're going to start designing these,
Decide
you'll
roundabouts?
really take a look at the history of our city or our town, and maybe use some concepts of dating back to our history, and
Yeah.
maybe add them in different pieces throughout the city. And
I
I was
hope
going to
so,
kind of
and
make
then-
a little side thing, is to make sure you have lots of guardrails, because the way these people drive in the city, they're going to be popping them curves. So we make sure we have plenty of
We'll have a special
guardrails,
one
'cause
for
it's coming.
Daniela.
So the way the people drive in this city, get ready. They wanted the roundabouts.
So some of
So,
those
get some racetracks
images
in.
of the raised median,
Yep.
like you don't even want to be able to see through. That's what they say. Like, oh, I don't want anything there so I can see through. But if your eyes are looking through to the other side, you're not even looking at the right spot. So raised also provides for the ramp / slowdown.
There you go.
Depending on how fast you're going.
And I guess when
You
we're
know,
talking about,
Chevy Chase
once
or
we're designing that road around that area, we could look at, it has nothing to do with this, but like a possible speed cushions to where we can slow traffic down. But yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. Maybe, just a suggestion to look at our city, our history, and see if there's some kind of little art pieces that could be put together into where you can signify, like in Austin, where they have the downtown guitars and they have the longhorns all over the place. It gives a certain area of the city. Thank you.
So one potential issue here is we have an arts board that we've created. And so there's a possibility that they're going to want to weigh in. And I think it's probably incumbent upon this board to decide how much involvement we want them to have in this project. I think do we want them to have to make a recommendation or work with Coleman and Melissa to make recommendations on the themes and the palettes and the landscaping? Or do we want to just identify a specific pedestal and say on top of the pedestal, that's the art that we would like you to commission. We're going to do all the rest. It's my preference, but I just don't want to give too much over to the commission all at once. I would rather keep this at the policy makers level. But still, I think there are art components that we could allow for them to
Maybe
do specific art.
Maybe to have them work with identifying those areas, and then they can go from there.
Do you need clarification from us on that now, or do you feel like you can navigate through that
I think
process?
we could probably navigate for some of that, but absolutely, we want it to be a collaborative process too, and to get.
Why do we have to hire Coleman through K-Freeze for this?
I was just saying, I wanted originally, kind of the roundabouts came up through the road bonds, so I wanted to make sure that we kind of had that connection with that for this roundabout process, but it's not, it's a little bit semantics, to kind of link it together with the road bond project.
We can certainly have a separate contract. I think it's just to have a nexus with the engineering and the process and what's going on, the status of the project. We want to make sure it's not being done independently from those, that they're always being worked on together. And the reason we're bringing this forward is obviously because the engineering and the construction is advancing, and we're getting close to being under construction for some of these. And we want to make sure that we also time which ones we're working on, to the ones that are coming up very quickly. But it's we have other sub-consultants that working, we just contract through K-Freeze. We could do it either way.
Okay.
It'd still be the same relationship.
The
as far as
direction
I'm
you need
concerned.
from us is just to direct you to proceed or not, or what? Do you?
Yeah, it's certainly not a contract that you're working on today, but if your direction is that you would like us to pursue a program like this where they would be interconnected with the designs, then we'll come back to you and bring that forward. But it is different than what we've done in the past, and I wanted to make sure council was comfortable. It's going to be additional expense too. We'll give you options as we go through that, but I think the grand vision of it was really what we wanted to make sure the council was comfortable was connecting not only the roundabouts, but the images, the branding, and also corridors, the beautification corridors of the city, which frankly, we really don't have good plans for those beautification areas. How do those tie together? And I think that's exactly what we're looking to use Coleman for, to bring that back to you in phases.
Can I make
just
a
add
motion?
to that? Yeah. So I just want to get back to like on the beautification and the water for these roundabouts, that we have a fair and equal distribution of these types of roundabouts all throughout the city, because I can already start to anticipate all the nice ones in one section. So don't want to see that, and find a nice green and whatever monument types throughout the city. Whether we have the water there or not, that should not be a consideration.
Are you saying like we're gonna have nice ones on the west side and
He
nice?
just doesn't want to see that.
That's what I heard somebody was alluding to. So
No, nobody's alluded to that.
Someone said-
I think you hear what you want to
if we
hear.
don't have irrigation, then just
I will
throw
say that
rocks in
the
there.
16 new roundabouts that are being planned
Right.
all have irrigation and electricity.
Right, so that should not be part of it's equal money paid by everyone equally.
We have
look, honestly-
we have a policy, like Robert said, we have a
Yeah, there's
policy
a
of what,
policy,
how
yeah.
big the roundabouts are gonna be and square footage and everything. So
Y'all
we're always-
get me excited when y'all bring this stuff up, so just don't bring up that if we have water here, we're gonna get some nicer ones.
So if there's no water nearby, you want to spend $1 million to bring water there? That's what I was bringing up.
Yeah.
I wasn't talking about east side, west side. I was talking about the taxpayer dollar. And if you don't care about the taxpayer
No, I
dollar,
do.
let me know.
I do.
You know what I mean?
I do, but
It's
we
not
should.
your first council meeting,
Right.
is it? I
Sorry,
sure hope
sorry.
not.
We don't want to drag.
You've been to
it
these
out.
before?
I don't want.
You understand how this goes? Okay.
Right.
I do have a couple of comments. I think maybe thematically, if we use the railroad theme, which we've been using for a lot of things, it's unique, it ties into our depot and other areas of town. And I would love to see the Arts Commission involved in helping with the design and the artwork. I think that's an excellent use of that commission.
It is.
Not to slow you down, because we don't want that to happen, but I think it's an excellent use of their time.
And that
Yeah,
was
not-
when we worked with the artists on the Capitol Complex project. We put out a call to artists to say, we are doing the flora and fauna of Texas. These are the 5 elements that we are doing. All 5 elements need to look similar, even though they are done by 2 different artists. And so that was kind of all in the briefing as part of it, was these are the constraints that we're working in order to make it look cohesive and unified, but still allow artistic. No one told Lars Stanley that's what the armadillo had to look like. That
Right.
was his
Yeah,
interpretation.
so I think it's something in the middle, right? So Coleman and Associates is an expert at designing unified roundabout themes and landscapings. We would assume that's why we want to work with you. But within that project, there's a piece, like you think on a map, like what is the signature art element for this one? What is the signature art element for the next one? Probably nothing on the east side, but I'm sorry. It's late. I start to
They
get.
love
I
to
start
take
to
the
start
east side
joking.
money and put it on the west side.
But what I'm saying is, then the Arts Commission could have a more narrow, but also really tailored to what they're there for, which is the actual artistic expression of each one. And then just as a reminder, why I get a little nervous about these kind of projects is we have gone through major landscape projects that we have designed, bid, funded, voted to approve, and just disappeared from the landscape off of East Side, Kyle Parkway Extension. We funded a major improvement that never happened. 1626 was with trees and a variety of other things that never happened. So the roundabout at Burleson is the one project out of like 4 that we approved that actually made it, and it almost didn't make it. So my point is, I want to make sure that this is something that we prioritize and that we deliver. And then I would also like to please see those other contracts come back, or us not just abandon council will on that. Anyway, I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to work with Coleman and Associates on crafting a placemaking, roundabouts, wayfinding, and beautification of gateways program and bring back recommendations to that effect.
Second.
Motion by Mayor, seconded by Councilmember Harris. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries 7-0. If it's 2 seconds, it'll be 2 seconds on Saturday. All right, I'm done. All right, thank you so much.
One slide.
Yes. I haven't read it. I don't agree to this. I want to adjourn, but okay, fine. Agenda item 14, discussion on boards and commissions. Go ahead.
This is the secondary item to the boards and commissions appointments that you all approved on May 7th. We got the first and second, this was my joke about a formula we use, but no one wants to joke right now. We got the mayor floats to each one of these, so Mayor, you are exempt from this conversation, but we got three two-person committees from each one of the boards and commissions of the council that would weigh in on boards and commission appointments. These were the ones that we came up with. We tried to pair everyone with their highest number 1 and number 2 that they wanted. We feel like we got a pretty good set of 1s and 2s from each one of you. Councilmember Heiser and Zuniga will be evaluating the Economic Development and Tourism Board and Board of Adjustments. Councilmember Harris and Mayor Pro Tem Rizzo will be evaluating the Arts and Culture Board and the Trails Committee. And Councilmember Parsley and Tobias will be evaluating Parks and Recreation and Community Gardens. If you all remember, the planning and zoning will rotate evenly as the boards come up, and these are not set in stone. We can evaluate these each year so that we can move them around and make sure everybody gets a fair shake at these, but this will allow us to be more efficient with getting our boards together. That's it. Just wanted to put it before you so that you all saw. There's nothing to vote on or anything. These will be the appointments. And yes, Councilmember Harris.
Garden Committee and Trails Committee are scheduled to be phased out. The Garden Committee's last meeting is June 5th. Trails, I think, is probably about the same time unless we vote to extend these committees. So we may just have that one.
Note taken.
Okay.
That's all.
Hold on. He can't do that.
Got to wait for the chair.
Any discussion? Nope.
Ms. Harrison, sorry, what was your recommendation?
There wasn't a recommendation, just a comment that Trails and Garden are scheduled to lapse in June.
So she just wanted to make a statement.
Yeah, unless we choose at some point to extend those.
Any more? Okay, we're good. So I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Second. So moved. We are adjourned.